Chapter 63. Although the underworld pearl's radiance was protecting him, Wang Lin, who was surrounded by the black fog, felt himself getting colder and colder. It wasn't just his body that was cold, but his soul was shivering and freezing. It was as if a cold wind was blowing from the depths of his heart. No matter how warm the outside world was, it couldn't block it. He didn't know that this was a sign of his spirit being overused. If this continued, it would hurt his soul. Although the underworld pearl could restrain Sikong Nan to a certain extent, Wang Lin's cultivation was too low. His soul couldn't control the underworld pearl and couldn't withstand the consumption of the underworld pearl. Sikong Nan's strange laughter rang in his ears, and his vision went black. Wang Lin felt like his spirit was about to collapse, and many irrelevant things started to appear in his mind. The first thing that Wang Lin thought of was his parents. Father, mother, am I going to die? Taiju is unfilial. I can't go back to see you. Inconceivably, the second thing that came to Wang Lin's mind was a young Taoist wearing a white robe. If I had left with that Taoist, would I have avoided today's disaster? Wang Lin's mind was in a mess. Just as he was about to lose consciousness, a voice suddenly came to his ears. Old ghost, get out of my way. Stay away from my disciple. Wang Lin tried his best to open his eyes. The light and shadow in front of him changed, and finally, he saw a flash of white light that tore through the black fog. The young Taoist in white robe that he saw before suddenly appeared in front of him, looking at him with concern. Wang Lin's lips moved as if he wanted to say something, but in the end, no sound came out. His head tilted and he fainted. Lin Feng saw that Wang Lin had only fainted due to exhaustion, so he relaxed and turned to face Sikong Nan. Sikong Nan coldly stared at him. Junior, you dare to ruin this old man's business. This old man will pull out your soul and refine it into a soul lamp. I will let you suffer the pain of the ghost fire day and night. Lin Feng waved his sleeve, shielding Wang Lin behind him. He calmly said, Get out of here now, and I will spare your life. Sikong Nan's eyebrows immediately rose, and he laughed strangely. Junior, you're courting death. As the black fog surged, it flew into the air and gathered together, almost solidifying. Then it spun rapidly and pressed down on Lin Feng like a drill. Lin Feng's palms changed the incantation gesture, and all the magic power in his body automatically turned into the pure Buddhist magic power of the Ksitigarbha Sutra. His entire body emitted a layer of faint golden Buddhist light. Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva hasn't been completely cultivated yet, so Lin Feng doesn't dare to be careless. His hands formed a Buddhist hand seal. Using the Ksitigarbha Sutra's Buddhist mana to propel it, he cast the little reincarnation technique he comprehended from the Thundershock Dhyana. Activating the minor reincarnation art, a golden light gathered above Lin Feng's head, forming a huge swastika symbol. The black drill spun rapidly as it pressed down. The golden swastika above Lin Feng's head spun, causing the black drill to deviate and land on a cliff far away. The cliff that had endured thousands of years of wind and rain was directly smashed into smithereens by the black drill. Lin Feng's expression didn't change on the surface, but he was alarmed in his heart. This old bastard only has a remnant soul left, but his strength is equivalent to the peak of Foundation establishment. If he recovers to his peak, how terrifying would he be? No matter if it's the Ksitigarbha Sutra or the minor reincarnation technique, they're both Buddhist secrets that aren't passed on to others. Only by combining the two, Lin Feng was able to take on Sikong Nan's first round of attack. And luckily, he used the minor reincarnation art and deflected the black drill by borrowing force. Otherwise, if he took it head-on, with the incomplete Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva Sutra, it would most likely be a disaster. Lin Feng's pupils shrunk. Since I've made this enemy today, I can't leave any loose ends. Show mercy, don't attack, don't show mercy. Thinking up to here, he raised both his hands, and 24 golden lights flew in all directions, landing on the ground. Sikong then stared at Lin Feng and snorted coldly. Buddhist monk? This old man hates monks the most. Let me show you my 100 Ghosts nocturnal art. Sikong Nan's technique changed continuously, and the black fog he emitted became thicker and thicker, gradually enveloping the entire valley. Waves of miserable screams came from the black fog, and dozens of crimson red lights suddenly lit up in the black fog, looking extremely dazzling. In the next moment, Lin Feng saw a dozen or so black shadows stumble out of the thick fog. Those were a dozen or so ferocious-looking, pitch-black ghosts. Those crimson-red dots of light that lit up earlier were actually their eyes. Sikong Nan's strange laughter came from the black fog. What a pity! What a pity! Back then, I used the 1,000 Ghosts nocturnal art, the 10,000 Ghosts nocturnal art. How bold was that? Now that I've fallen, I only have these dozens of ghosts left, but it's more than enough to deal with you. Little bastard, once I kill you, I'll turn you into one of them, and you'll be at my beck and call for eternity. Lin Feng looked carefully and saw one of the weaker ghosts. Although it was pitch black and had a twisted face, he could still vaguely recognize its facial features. It was Sun Xiaozhu, who was just killed by Sikong Nan. From the aura around this ghost, he completely retained Sun Xiaozhu's Qi Disciple Level 8 cultivation when he was alive. Sun Xiaozhu was the weakest among this group of vengeful ghosts. The other vengeful ghosts were at least at the peak of Qi refinement. There were 6 vengeful ghosts that were probably Foundation establishment cultivators when they were alive, but Sikong Nan extracted their souls to refine them. The ghosts howled in front of him, but Lin Feng ignored them. He looked into the depths of the black fog and laughed. You're really playing with a big axe in front of Lu Ban's door. Sikong Nan was startled. What did you say? Lin Feng smiled. His smile was as bright as the sun, raising his hand and lightly snapping his fingers. Snap! With a crisp sound, a dazzling Buddhist light soared into the sky, and bursts of golden light washed away the black fog. The sound of Buddhist chanting filled with compassion lingered in the ears, and the chilly wind and ghostly cries disappeared in an instant. The smell of sandalwood filled the air, calming one's mind. Lin Feng bathed in the Buddhist light, closed his eyes, and listened to the Buddhist chants. He tapped his hands lightly, feeling extremely satisfied. The dozens of ghosts were having a hard time. They were all surrounded by the golden Buddhist light, and their bodies felt like they were being burned. They could only curl into a ball and bitterly resist. The black fog dissipated, revealing Sikong Nan's lifeless face. 24 30-meter-tall, giant arhats stepped out from the golden fog behind Lin Feng, bringing with them an unparalleled pressure. Lin Feng opened his eyes and chuckled. Who did you say it was more than enough to deal with? His smile revealed his snow-white teeth, and they even shone faintly. But in Sikong Nan's eyes, it made him shudder. Sikong Nan had always thought that he was already savage enough, but looking at Lin Feng, who was full of smiles right now, he only felt as if he was facing a primordial super monster. Lin Feng smiled and lightly waved his right hand. Then, let's begin. 24 golden arhats chanted the Buddhist chants together, and their voices were deafening. They strode towards Sikong Nan and the dozens of ghosts, shaking the earth and mountains. Chapter 64. After Lin Feng activated the 24 Heaven Arhat formation, the battle situation immediately fell into a one-sided situation. 24 golden arhats, all at the Foundation establishment level, surrounded the ghosts and gave them a good beating. These ghosts and spirits were no match for the golden arhats in terms of individual combat ability or collective combat ability. Now that they were restrained by the Buddhist light, they could only use 80% of their abilities. The result of the battle was obvious. Sikong Nan watched as the ghosts he had refined were killed one by one. He was so distressed that he cried out, "Junior, this old man will fight you to the death." Sikong Nan's expression was ferocious. He clasped his hands in front of his chest and formed a spell. The black fog continued to gather, gradually compressing into a black ball of light. The few remaining ghosts let out ear-piercing screams. Their eyes glowed red as they shot towards the black ball of light in front of Sikong Nan's chest. The red light continued to fuse into the black ball of light. The black ball of light became darker and heavier. As the red light continued to shoot out, the few ghosts became dispirited, as if they had been drained of energy. Lin Feng thought, he seems to have used a secret technique to sacrifice these ghosts to complete some kind of secret technique. Thinking of this, Lin Feng waved his hand. The 24 golden arhats clasped their hands together. The golden light above their heads merged into a golden cloud of light. Lin Feng did not have the intention of waiting for his opponent to charge up his ultimate move. After the opponent finished charging up, he would fight it out with his most powerful move. Before crossing the river, striking the middle of the river was the right way. The Sanskrit chants sounded from the golden cloud of light. A golden light flew out from the cloud of light and turned into a giant golden wheel, smashing towards Sikong Nan's head. Sikong Nan stared and shouted, "Junior, you dare? Take this old man's ghost king cannon." A thick blood-red pillar of light shot out from the black ball of light. The pillar of light was surrounded by black light. The golden wheel collided with the blood-red pillar of light. There was no sound, but a strong, invisible shock wave spread out from the point of collision. Even the golden fog of the Buddhist light formation was blown away by the continuous shock wave. Invisible waves swept through the entire valley. The towering ancient trees in the mountains were toppled over, and countless plants were uprooted. Sand and pebbles flew everywhere, and even cracks appeared on the hard stone walls. The blood-red beam of light was not destroyed by the golden roulette, and the golden roulette was not damaged either. The two powerful forces were locked in a stalemate in mid-air. Seeing this scene, Sikong Nan's heart was filled with hatred. "Cunning Junior, if you wait for me to complete this technique, I will definitely be able to destroy your Buddhist Dharma. I hate myself for being so heavily injured. Not only has my cultivation dropped, I can't even use many of my powerful divine abilities. Otherwise, even with my current cultivation of foundation building, killing a little beast like you would be like killing a dog." Sikong Nan roared in his heart. "If you fall in my hands, I will burn your soul like oil." Lin Feng's expression was indifferent as he nodded calmly. "Not bad." His calm demeanor made Sikong Nan even more depressed. "However, you still have a long way to go." Lin Feng formed a hand seal with both of his hands. The 24 arhats instantly responded and once again chanted the name of Buddha. "Buddha is merciful." The golden roulette immediately shined brightly and forcefully pushed forward, forcing the blood-red beam of light to shrink back. The roulette's advancing speed was not fast, nor was it hurried, nor impatient. However, it was filled with unstoppable, undefeatable power. "When I say I will crush you, I will crush you." Sikong Nan's expression changed drastically. This time, he couldn't even speak and could only bitterly resist. However, in front of the golden roulette's tyrannical power, he appeared so helpless, like a candle in the wind that could be extinguished at any moment. But Lin Feng still did not stop. He was unforgiving when in power. Only a dead enemy is a good enemy. Letting the 24 Sariras support the array, Lin Feng's spiritual energy has already changed from Buddhist spiritual energy to the 9 heavens thunder techniques, thunder spiritual energy. Thunder is the strongest and most powerful energy in the world. It is the most tyrannical and swift. It is the nemesis of all ghosts and is specialized in breaking ghost and evil techniques. Lin Feng clasped his palms together. Instantly, the thunder spiritual energy around him quickly gathered and condensed into a giant thunderblade that was over 10 meters long in the air. The violent bluish-purple thunder light made Sikong Nan's face purple. At this moment, Sikong Nan felt the light in the sky suddenly darken. The sun did not disappear. Instead, his vision was completely filled with the light of another bluish-purple sun. 9 heavens thunder technique, derived from the divine ability spell, Wild Thunder Lightning Blade. Lin Feng smiled, baring his teeth. "Old bastard die." Under Sikong Nan's horrified gaze, the violent thunder and lightning saber streaked across the space tens of meters away, bringing with it a continuous crackling sound in the air as it chopped down towards his head. No, all of Sikong Nan's spiritual energy was used to fight against the golden roulette. How could he have any energy left to block Lin Feng's blade? With a cry, Sikong Nan's godly soul that was floating in the air was directly cut into two by Lin Feng's blade. The lower half of his body was directly smashed by the thunder. Every inch of his upper body skin was wrapped in countless sparks of electricity, continuously exploding. It was extremely miserable. This young man is cruel. I can't fight him head-on anymore. Otherwise, I will die here today. Sikong then stared at Lin Feng with hatred. What was left of his godly soul turned into a black fog and returned to the underworld pearl. Lin Feng frowned slightly. He put away the 24 heaven Arhut array and rushed forward to pick up the underworld pearl. He could feel that inside the underworld pearl, Sikong Nan's heavily injured godly soul was actually recovering rapidly. Young man, no matter how arrogant you are, as long as I am in this underworld pearl, you can't kill me. Sikong Nan's hideous laughter came from the underworld pearl. I will settle this with you sooner or later. Let's see who will have the last laugh. Lin Feng indifferently glanced at the underworld pearl. He drew a seal in the air with his finger and added it to the underworld pearl. Without a doubt, the one who will have the last laugh will be me. As for you, hee. Inside the underworld pearl, Sikong Nan's laughter suddenly stopped. It was as if someone had suddenly grabbed his neck. After a while, his flustered and exasperated voice came. What did you do? How could you cut off the connection between the underworld pearl and me? This is Taishu Temple's heaven cage sigil. How could you possibly know the secret spells of Taishu Temple? Didn't you cultivate Buddhist Taoist techniques? You know Buddhist Taoist techniques and Taoist sacred ground techniques. Who are you? Lin Feng didn't pay attention to Sikong Nan, who had already sunk into madness. He put away the underworld pearl and used the black cloud flag to wrap himself and Wang Lin, who was still unconscious on the ground, leaving this valley. Lin Feng tried to use mana to stimulate and wake up Wang Lin, but there was no reaction. He frowned and examined carefully. He found that Wang Lin's godly soul was actually also trapped inside the underworld pearl. I have to get his godly soul out as soon as possible. He doesn't have any cultivation in Taoist techniques. If his godly soul is out of his body for too long, he won't be able to return to his corporeal body. Lin Feng set up the black cloud flag and flew. The heaven cage sigil can only temporarily seal that old ghost. Leaving him alive is still a disaster. I have to find a place to completely solve this problem. Chapter 65. The Hengyu sect group flew all the way until they were thousands of miles away from the Hengyu mountain. Sikong then brought Wang Lin and flew far away. After Lin Feng determined the direction, he raised the black cloud flag and brought Wang Lin and the underworld pearl back to the Hengyu mountain. Lin Feng's 3 disciples were still waiting for him in the small town at the foot of the Hengyu mountain. However, before meeting up with his disciples, Lin Feng first had to find a quiet place to solve the problem of Wang Lin and Sikong Nan. He found a secluded valley less than 100 miles east of the Hengyu mountain. He opened the black cloud flag and sealed the valley. Then, he crushed a sound transmission crystal. The crystal shard emitted a faint white light, and Xiao Yan's voice came from the white light. Master, what's the matter? Lin Feng said, Master has recently comprehended the Tao of heaven and earth. My Tao technique realm has increased again, but I need to go into seclusion for a period of time. I'm not sure how long it will be. Take care of yourselves during this period of time. Stay in the town and wait patiently for Master to return. After a pause, Lin Feng still continued. Master's seclusion is in a small valley 100 miles east of the Hengyu mountain. If there are any difficulties you can't solve, you can come here to find Master. Xiaoyan smiled. Master, don't worry. We will wait patiently for you to return. Lin Feng made a sound. The white light on the crystal dissipated and the communication was cut off. After settling down Wang Lin's body, Lin Feng sat cross-legged with the underworld pearl on his palm. After all, he only had qi condensation cultivation. The heaven cage sigil he set up earlier was about to be destroyed by Sikong Nan. Lin Feng connected his mind with the underworld pearl. His consciousness seemed to enter a dim yellow space. Ripples visible to the naked eye flowed in the space. It was as if he was underwater. As far as the eye could see, everything was dim yellow. In the depths of the space, Sikong Nan was locked in a cage made of light. His entire body was shrouded in black mist, and he kept hitting the bars of the light prison. The light prison made of the heaven cage sigil was already on the verge of collapse and could be broken by this old ghost at any time. When Sikong Nan saw Lin Feng, he cackled. You think that everything will be fine just because you used the heaven cage sigil to trap me. On the contrary, this heaven cage sigil instead allows this old man to see through the depth of your cultivation. You're nothing but a little brat at the chi refinement stage. After this old man breaks this sigil, I'll use your soul to accompany my wine. Lin Feng smiled carelessly. Before that, I'll make you cold. The golden Buddha's light instantly lit up the dim yellow space. Looking at the huge figure in the Buddha's light, Sikong Nan's face turned green. What kind of magic item is this? It can actually permeate magic power into the underworld pearl. This is a Sarira. You refined a Buddhist Sarira into a magic item? Within the Buddha's light that filled the sky, Lin Feng sat cross-legged silently. His hands formed a Buddha seal, and he smiled. Old ghost, today I'll use this Buddha's light formation to refine and transcend you. Xiao Budian looked at Xiao Yin anxiously. Eldest senior brother, isn't Master coming back? Xiao Yin nodded. Master wants to break through and raise his cultivation, so he decided to go into seclusion for a period of time. The length of time is uncertain. The place is 100 li east of here in a small valley. Things like seclusion are about not being disturbed. So my opinion is that we should stay here and wait for Master. Xiao Budian lowered his head. Xiao Yin and Zhu Yi looked at each other. Zhu Yi said, Little junior brother, if you really want Master, then let's go to the valley right now. We won't disturb him and just guard the vicinity of the valley. Before he finished his sentence, he saw Xiao Budian raise his head in surprise. I didn't say I want to find Master. Zhu Yi said curiously. Then I see you lowering your head and not saying anything. You don't seem to be in a good mood. Xiao Budian curled his lips. I'm thinking about where to play later. It's not easy for Master to not be by my side. Even if I cause some trouble, no one will criticize me. Xiao Yin and Zhu Yi were speechless at the same time. They looked at each other and shook their heads with a bitter smile. They were defeated by this brat. Xiao Budian smiled. Two senior brothers, let's go out for a walk. It's too boring to sit here and wait foolishly. Zhu Yi slightly furrowed his brows. Xiao Yin, on the other hand, was rather moved. He himself also has a flamboyant personality and has never been a person who follows the rules by the book. Xiao Yin saw that Zhu Yi didn't seem to care, so he smiled and said, Second junior brother, let's go together. Don't you always say that reading 10,000 books is not as good as walking 10,000 li? What do you mean by walking 10,000 li? It means you have to experience more things and see all kinds of people and things. It's not just about being busy on the road. Zhu Yi thought. The ancient scholars all traveled to different countries to spread knowledge and educate the people. At the same time, they also increased their knowledge and knowledge. Sitting quietly and reading books is cultivation. Observing the world is also cultivation. There is a path between heaven and earth, and there's also a path among the common people. They are all principles and should be understood. Thinking of this, Zhu Yi nodded happily. He had been reading for a long time and was rational and calm. He was more composed than most people of his age, but he was still a young man after all. He also had a curious and lively side. The three youths left the town together and headed for the Chuzhou city, which was hundreds of miles away. Chuzhou city was an important town in the southern border of the Great Qin dynasty. It had a dense population and developed commerce. The city was very lively. Xiao Yin and the other two wandered for a while and arrived at the market in the center of the city. The outskirts of the market were ordinary things that ordinary people ate and wore, but the center of the market was a world of all kinds of cultivation materials. The southern border of the Great Qin dynasty bordered the territory of the demons. While it was chaotic and dangerous, there were all kinds of rare treasures. Chuzhou City was the largest distribution center of all kinds of rare treasures in the southern border of the Great Qin dynasty. Walking in the market, the three of them looked around. Most of them were just strolling around. They couldn't afford the things they liked, and they didn't like the things that were too cheap. This thing. Xiaoyan suddenly stopped and looked at an item in a shop. It was huge and completely black, almost as long as he was. Zhu Yi and Xiao Budian noticed his strange behavior and also stopped. Xiao Budian smiled and said, "First senior brother, what do you like? Why are you so lost in thought? Let me have a look." He couldn't help but be speechless. Zhu Yi's curiosity was piqued by their reactions. He also walked over and was speechless after seeing the thing clearly. The thing that caught Xiaoyan's attention was an extremely huge black sword. Well, rather than saying it was a huge sword, it was more like a thick iron ruler without a sharp edge. The black sword didn't have a sword tip either. At the end of the sword, it seemed to have been cut in half by something, revealing a smooth cross-section that was as smooth as a mirror. On the surface of the huge, pitch-black sword, there were blurry and strange patterns. The patterns extended to the hilt and almost covered every part of the sword. Coupled with its simple pitch-black color, it looked rather mysterious. Zhu Yi said with a stutter, "First senior brother, you like this thing?" Xiaoyan was puzzled. "I always feel that this thing seems to have some kind of connection with me. To borrow a phrase that Master often says, could it be that I am fated with this thing?" The little guy's expression was strange. After holding it in for a long time, he couldn't hold it in and burst out laughing. Zhu Yi also smiled. Xiaoyan couldn't hold it in anymore. "You two brats, what are you laughing at?" I'm not laughing. The little guy hurriedly waved his hand, but the smile on his face couldn't be stopped. Xiaoyan patted his little head in embarrassment and annoyance. The little guy hurriedly hugged his head. "Don't pat me. I'm already becoming stupid letting Master pat me all the time. If first senior brother pat me again, you'll really become stupid." Xiaoyan laughingly scolded, "You might as well die of stupidity." Zhu Yi smiled at the side and said, "Since first senior brother likes it, then just buy it." Xiaoyan pondered for a moment and slowly nodded. The three of them didn't notice that on the street outside the shop, a gray-clothed man wearing a large bamboo hat suddenly opened his originally drooping eyelids. The light in his eyes exploded as he turned his head and stared at the shop Xiaoyan and the others were at. This magic power undulation. It's the Thundershock Staff's magic power undulation. Buddha's mercy has finally let this disciple find a clue. Chapter 66. On the wide yellow dirt road, a black-clothed youth was walking with difficulty with his face covered in sweat. Every time the youth's foot landed, it was as if a heavy object had landed on the ground, heavily smashing into the ground and sending up a cloud of yellow dust. From a close distance, one could see that the black-clothed youth was actually carrying an extremely large black sword on his back. The huge sword did not have a sharp edge, nor did it have a sword point. Its length was almost longer than the youth's height. This strange combination caused many pedestrians in the market square to cast curious gazes at him. Beside the black-clothed youth, a young scholar dressed in green walked shoulder to shoulder with him. A child of only 4 or 5 years of age skipped ahead, occasionally turning his head to look at the black-clothed youth. The green-clothed scholar and the child both had strange expressions on their faces. They wanted to laugh, but did not dare to. The black-clothed youth glared at them unhappily. He dragged his heavy feet and walked to a large tree on the side of the road. Walking to the bottom of the tree, the black-clothed youth directly faced the sky and fell head first onto the warm turf. The sweat on his forehead flowed down like a small stream. His two companions stood beside him and looked down at him. The smiles on their faces could no longer be maintained. The black-clothed youth was naturally Xiaoyan. Looking at the two junior brothers who had a smile that was not a smile, he snorted, "If you want to laugh, then laugh. Be careful not to suffocate to death." Xiao Budian burst into a burst of crisp laughter. Zhu Yi also revealed a smile. Eldest senior brother, what do you think is fated with? Why do you have to be fated with such a heavy thing? Now you've suffered a lot, right? Xiaoyan scratched his head in vexation. I also didn't think that before. Let alone that this thing itself is so heavy, it can actually suppress the circulation of my mana. It's really going to tire me to death. Carrying this thing back to Hengyu Mountain, just thinking about it makes me feel terrified. Xiao Budian gloated. Eldest senior brother, what kind of sin did you commit in your previous life? Xiaoyan glared at him and said, on the way back to Hengyu Mountain, you and I will take turns. I use your medicinal pills to buy this thing. If you don't carry it, I won't be able to bring it back. I won't be returning the medicinal pills I owe you. Xiao Budian immediately became anxious. Senior brother, you're shameless. Xiao Yin smiled and said, I am. What can you do about it? You. The little guy was just about to speak when his expression suddenly changed. He turned his head to look behind him. Xiao Yin and Zhu Yi were also alarmed. They raised their eyes to look behind Xiao Budian and saw a gray-clothed man wearing a large conical bamboo hat, silently standing not far away from them. The man in gray took off his bamboo hat, revealing a shiny bald head with 6 neat ring scars on his head. Why is Hui Ku's Thundershock staff on you guys? Where is Hui Ku? And where is the Saraira? The gray-clothed man slowly asked. His voice wasn't loud, but seemed to resound in the three's hearts. The expressions of Xiao Yin and his fellow disciples all changed slightly. This gray-clothed monk was only calmly standing there, but it brought them a great amount of pressure. They didn't even dare to move a single finger. The three looked at each other, their minds rapidly turning. This monk's cultivation is unfathomable. Without Master by his side, it's easy to be at a disadvantage if we fight recklessly. Xiao Budian's big black eyes turned, and he was the first to speak. It was given to our master by a great master, and then master passed it on to us. The gray-clothed monk glanced at Xiao Budian, his gaze revealing a hint of amazement. He could clearly see that Xiao Budian wasn't even 5 years old, but already had the cultivation of the 10th level of Qi Disciple. I wonder which expert your respected master is. Subconsciously, the gray-clothed monk's tone became a bit more polite. To be able to teach such a universally shocking disciple like Xiao Budian, his master was definitely not an ordinary person. Xiao Budian shook his head. Master won't let us say. Xiao Yin looked at the gray-clothed monk and asked in a neither servile nor overbearing manner, I wonder what advice great master has for me. The gray-clothed monk looked at him. The Thundershock staff is on you, right? That's a Buddhist magic item. After a moment of silence, Xiao Yin said, the magic item was bestowed by my esteemed master. Without my esteemed master's permission, this junior doesn't dare to easily gift it to others. The gray-clothed monk's drooping eyelids suddenly opened, divine light erupted, and he stared straight at Xiao Yan. Xiao Yan's mind was shaken, and he almost fainted. Under the gaze of the gray-clothed monk, Xiao Yan even felt a sense of guilt from his own sins. But his will was incomparably firm, and he forcibly stabilized his mind and unyieldingly stared at the gray-clothed monk. Zhu Yi had been silent the entire time, but at this time, he soundlessly took a step forward and stood side by side with Xiao Yin, directly facing the pressure brought by the gray-clothed monk. Xiao Budian's little face also sunk, and he stood together with his 2 senior brothers. The 3 of them stood shoulder to shoulder, facing the powerful opponent together. The gray-clothed monk's gaze flashed, his eyelids drooped again, and the pressure instantly disappeared. Xiao Yin and the other 2 all let out a sigh of relief at the same time. Only now did they discover that their backs were already drenched in cold sweat. The monk who gave you the Thundershock staff, do you know where he is right now? The gray-clothed monk thought for a bit and opened his mouth to ask. Xiao Budian answered first. I'm not sure. It's already been half a year since we met him. Half a year ago? The gray-clothed monk asked closely. Where did you meet him? Xiao Budian answered without hesitation. The Great Zhou dynasty's capital city is near Tianjing. If Great Master wants to find someone, there's no harm in making a trip to Tianjing. The gray-clothed monk stared at the three for a while, then nodded and put his palms together. Namo Amitba. Thank you, three young benefactors. Before he finished speaking, he had already disappeared from where he stood. Xiao Yin was slightly dazed. This monk is all bark and no bite. He left just like that. Xiao Budian unhappily said, Senior brother, don't tell me you want him to really make a move and cook the three of us together? Zhu Yi muttered to himself. This monk is very likely to make a comeback. Let's go back and meet up with Master as soon as possible. Xiao Yin and Xiao Budian nodded at the same time, and the three of them hurriedly walked out of the city. There was a slight ripple in the air, and the gray-clothed monk's figure appeared, staring at their departing figures. Casting a long line, hopefully we can catch a big fish. The gray-clothed monk sighed softly and followed behind the three of them. When Xiao Yin and the others left the city gates, they just happened to meet a group of people entering the city, brushing past the three of them. An old man in the group suddenly frowned and approached the young man leading the group. Young Master Tian, this old servant just saw a child. Young Master Tian asked, What's wrong with the child? The old man replied, This old servant has seen that Sure Xiling once in the past. The child just now looked 70 to 80% similar to Sure Xiling. Yu Tian's eyes flashed. Are you sure? Sure Xiling was Sure Tianhao and also Xiao Budian's father. The old man nodded. Young Master Tian knows that this old servant's eyes are the best at remembering people. That child looked at least 70 to 80% similar to Sure Xiling. If that child was still alive, he would be around this age. Yu Tian lowered his head and thought for a while, then ordered, Go, find two people to follow them and observe for a while. After finding their resting place, come back and report. In a small valley 100 li east of Hengyu Mountain, within the underworld Pearl, Lin Feng was operating the 24 Heaven Arhut formation, using boundless Buddhist light to forcefully refine Sikong Nan. The old ghost roared repeatedly and continuously resisted. Although he couldn't control the underworld Pearl, he could borrow some of its power after living in it for a long time. So Lin Feng couldn't do anything to him for the time being. As Lin Feng operated the 24 Heaven Arhut formation, he also searched in the system. Ghost King Cannon. 100 Ghosts Night Walk. I got it, it's here. Chapter 67. Ghost King Cannon. 100 Ghosts Night Spell. Got it, found it, it's here. Lin Feng was excited and read the description. Ghost King Cannon was a secret spell of the Thousand Ghosts sect. It extracted the souls of countless ghosts, compressed them with a secret method, and released them instantly. It was one of the killing moves of the Thousand Ghosts sect. The Night of 100 Ghosts was a secret technique of the Thousand Ghosts sect in the past. After killing the target, it could imprison the soul of the target and use a secret technique to refine the Yin Ghost. The Yin Ghost would hide in the user's mana and be released to attack the enemy when needed. The ghosts completely retained their cultivation when they were alive. The number of ghosts controlled was closely related to the user's cultivation. Lin Feng rolled his eyes. Thousand Ghost Sect? It seemed to be a popular demon sect a few hundred years ago. It was later destroyed by the Shu Mountain Sword Sect. The power structure of the Heaven Primal World was relatively stable. Besides the Great Zhou dynasty joining forces to destroy Buddhism 30 years ago, there was not much change. Before the Buddhist extermination incident, the three Holy Lands basically represented the strongest power in this world. Even during the Buddhist extermination incident, the figures of the Void Temple and the Mount Shu Sword Sect were faintly discernible. Otherwise, the Great Thunder Monastery would not have been destroyed. Ever since the three Holy Lands came into power, the days of the demonic path sects had been very difficult. Basically, they were like rats that everyone wanted to beat up. Even if a few of them were ambitious and powerful, they would eventually be suppressed and annihilated. The Thousand Ghosts sect was a typical example. At its peak, it was far more powerful than normal sections. It was close to the three Holy Lands. It was the holy land of ghost cultivators and the leader of the demon sections. However, after a few top old devils in the sect passed away, due to one reason or another, the sect could not avoid the fate of destruction in the end. A sword cultivator from a Mount Shu sword sect came to their door and killed the whole sect alone with a single sword, becoming one of the legendary stories of this sword cultivator's fierce life. Lin Feng glanced at Si Kongnan and suddenly asked, "You're from the Thousand Ghost sect?" Si Kongnan was stunned, then burst into laughter. "I didn't expect that someone still remembers the Thousand Ghosts sect." "Yes, I'm the last elder of the Thousand Ghosts sect, Si Kongnan." He smiled proudly. "Where did you hear the name of the Thousand Ghosts sect?" Lin Feng said slowly, "I heard a friend mention it." Si Kongnan smiled and said, "At least you are knowledgeable." Lin Feng continued slowly, "In his sect, the legend of a Thousand Ghosts sect has been passed down." Si Kongnan was taken aback. He also came from a demonic path sect. "That's not it." Lin Feng shook his head. A smile as warm as the sun in spring appeared on his face. "My friend is called Lu Yang. He's a disciple of the Mount Shu sword sect. In his sect, there's always been a legend of a powerful senior who single-handedly destroyed your Thousand Ghosts sect." Instantly, Si Kongnan fell silent. The next moment, the entire space within the underworld pearl trembled, and Si Kongnan's enraged roar reverberated. "I will kill you." Lin Feng snickered to himself. The angrier Si Kongnan got, the more unstable his control of his mana became, and the more flaws he revealed. In fact, even the underworld pearl was rejecting him. Si Kongnan was immediately taught a lesson. He was suppressed by the 24 Heaven Arhut formation. At this time, he also knew that he had fallen into Lin Feng's trap. He quickly calmed down and fought against Lin Feng. The spiritual energy within the underworld pearl was extremely viscous, like lead mercury. Lin Feng had a hard time manipulating this spiritual energy. Moreover, after being in contact with this spiritual energy for a long time, Lin Feng found that his mana was showing signs of losing control. It wasn't like the blood river true water that polluted his mana. Instead, it had the tendency of restoring the mana that Lin Feng had painstakingly cultivated to normal, pure spiritual energy. Cultivators cultivated qi by absorbing the spiritual energy of the world into their bodies and transforming it into their own mana. However, the underworld pearl seemed to have a strange power that could reverse the transformation of spiritual energy in mana. It is precisely by borrowing this power that Si Kongnan was able to resist the refinement of Lin Feng's 24 Heaven Arhut formation's Buddhist light. After thinking about it, Lin Feng found that this treasure, the underworld pearl, was very likely related to the legendary underworld true water. It might even have been refined from the underworld true water. The underworld true water, like the blood river true water, was one of the 6 great true waters of the world. It originated from the underworld Yellow Springs and was in existence closer to hell than the Nether Blood River. The underworld true water was also known as the Wangchuan River. The underworld true water was also known as the unfeeling water. Its power could purify everything in the world and restore it to its original state. If a person's soul came into contact with a bit of the underworld true water, they would lose all their memories. When mana came into contact with the underworld true water, it would also be restored to the purest spiritual energy of the world. Luckily, the underworld pearl seemed to have been heavily damaged and didn't have the true underworld true water in it. Otherwise, all of Lin Feng's mana would have already been cleanly refined by now. But the underworld pearl was refined from the underworld true water after all. It had some of the wondrous effects of the underworld true water, helping Si Kongnan resist Lin Feng's refinement. Lin Feng calculated in his heart, water and fire are incompatible. To restrain the underworld true water, I must have the 7 great true fires of the same level. I don't have the 7 great true fires on hand, but there's also no true underworld true water here. The fury of the Akala is one of the spiritual fires second only to the 7 great true fires. If I can cultivate the fury of the Akala, I will definitely be able to restrain the mana of the underworld pearl. Unfortunately, just like the Xidigarba golden body, Lin Feng still hasn't been able to cultivate the fury of the Akala divine ability. It's not that his talent isn't enough. It's that he who is only at the peak of Qi disciple, his Tao art realm is too low, not enough to cultivate the fury of the Akala. Lin Feng's gaze fell on the 24 golden arhats, thinking, maybe I can borrow their power. The 24 Sariras that form the formation are all the remains and spiritual bones of the great Thunder Temple's Buddhist high monks. The cultivation of these Buddhist powerhouses when they were alive was far from as simple as foundation establishment stage. It's because Huiku's cultivation was only at foundation establishment stage that he was able to refine 24 foundation establishment stage Arhat silhouettes. Now that they've fallen into Lin Feng's hands, following Lin Feng's Tao art realm increase, foundation establishment stage is still fine. If one day he can form the golden elixir and achieve golden elixir period cultivation, he can refine these Sariras again and obtain 24 Arhat silhouettes with the power of the golden elixir period. That would be the power that can penetrate through the heavens and penetrate through the earth. Lin Feng converted his own mana into the Buddhist fire mana of the art of Akala, then used the fire mana of the art of Akala to try and communicate with the 24 golden arhats. The 3 golden arhats reacted, resonating with Lin Feng's art of Akala's mana. Lin Feng's heart relaxed, knowing that he didn't guess wrong. The Sariras that manifested these 3 golden arhats were high monks when they were alive. The Tao art they cultivated should also be the art of Akala. Lin Feng instantly smiled. Then it's easy. I'm only afraid that within the 24 of you, not a single one cultivates the art of Akala. Now there's actually 3. Hee, old ghost, you're dead for sure. Lin Feng continuously poured the art of Akala's mana into the 3 Arhat silhouettes. His mana sucked out the mana hidden within the Sariras. The 3 Arhat silhouettes instantly emitted raging flames and started to burn. The other Arhats formed groups of 7, splitting into 3 teams, respectively surrounding and protecting the 3 flame Arhats and endlessly supplying their mana to the 3 flame Arhats. The 3 flame arhats put their palms together, chanting Buddhist mantras. The flames on their bodies surged into the sky, merging into one above their heads and turning into a raging sea of fire. A sense of alarm appeared in Sikong Nan's heart. He fearfully looked at the sea of fire above his head. Little bastard, what are you doing? Chapter 68. Under Lin Feng's control, the 24 golden arhats stood in 3 directions, surrounding Sikong Nan in the middle. The 3 flame arhats rose into the air. Below each flame arhat, there were 7 arhats holding them up, supplying a steady stream of Buddhist light to the flame arhats. The flames on the flame arhats grew bigger and bigger. They rushed into the sky and connected above Sikong Nan's head, turning into a sea of fire. Lin Feng's face was filled with anger. He stared and shouted, "My Buddha is merciful, transforming into anger and anger. Unleash endless anger, destroy all demons, and burn everything." Rumble. The entire space of the underworld pearl shook. Then, an angry golden Buddha with 4 faces and 8 arms slowly rose from the sea of fire. There was a closed vertical eye between the Buddha's brows. The golden Buddha chanted deafeningly. Amidst the Buddhist chants, the vertical eye between the Buddha's brows opened. From the vertical eye, a milky white flame shot out. The milky white flame looked extremely fragile, as if it could be extinguished by a gust of wind. Seeing this, Sikong Nan was terrified. "Wisdom Monarch, you actually cultivated the fury of the Akalanatha." The milky white flame burned in the air. Wherever the flame went, the space began to collapse and disintegrate. Lin Feng pointed with his finger. The milky white flame instantly turned into a straight line and shot toward Sikong Nan. Wherever the line of fire passed, the underworld pearl's power to purify everything was instantly destroyed. It could not stop the line of fire from advancing. When the line of fire hit the black fog protecting Seekong Nan's body, it was like a spark splashing into a pot of oil. Boom! The black fog was completely annihilated and burned, turning Seekong Nan into a flaming man. Whether it was the Underworld Pearl's power or Seekong Nan's power, at this moment, they all became fuel for the fire, fueling it. The fury of the Akalanatha. Within the flames, there was an incomparable anger. Even a Buddha would get angry, burning all angry thoughts. Even if they were both flames, as long as they were not the 7 great true fires, they would all be burned by the fury of the Akalanatha. Seekong Nan finally felt the threat of death. His heart was filled with fear. When a tiger falls to the plains, it will be bullied by a dog. This old man has actually been reduced to being ridden on by such a junior. If it was in the past, I would have crushed him to death with a single finger. At this juncture, I can't care so much anymore. Even if this old man dies, I will drag you down with me. Seekong Nan roared, "Little bastard, let's die together." As he roared, a low rumble came from the depths of the Underworld Pearl space. Lin Feng frowned slightly and listened attentively. It seemed to be the sound of flowing water. Lin Feng's expression changed drastically as he thought of something, but it was already too late to react. The sound of flowing water grew louder and louder. In the end, it turned into a loud rumbling sound, as if a dam had burst. A long river with a dim yellow color and transparent water rushed straight down, pouncing towards Lin Feng and Seekong Nan together. Lin Feng cursed under his breath, F***CK. As it turned out, it wasn't that the Underworld Pearl didn't have any Underworld True Water. On the contrary, there was a huge amount of Underworld True Water stored inside. However, because Seekong Nan had never been able to refine and control the Underworld Pearl, the Underworld True Water was like a scourge to him. He didn't dare to touch it easily. But at this moment, he had been forced into a dead end by Lin Feng. Naturally, he let go of all his worries and simply summoned the Underworld True Water to take Lin Feng down with him. Lin Feng's expression was ugly. The immovable deity True Fire that he controlled was only a small flame. Facing so much Underworld True Water, it wouldn't even be able to make a single wave before being swallowed. Seekong Nan laughed wildly and was the first to be swallowed by the surging true water of the Yellow Springs. Lin Feng could clearly see that the flames surrounding him were all extinguished the moment they came into contact with the true water of the Yellow Springs. Seeing this, the corners of Lin Feng's eyes twitched. He looked around and urgently tried to think of a solution. Suddenly, Lin Feng's eyes lit up. He saw a huge transparent ball of light floating on the surging underworld true water. Within the ball of light sat a skinny young man. It was Wang Lin. That's Wang Lin's divine soul. Lin Feng immediately understood. Without hesitation, he jumped onto the ball of light. It was like stepping on a small boat, moving forward with the surging underworld river. This was the only time Lin Feng had the time to observe Wang Lin inside the ball of light. He saw that Wang Lin's eyes were closed, and he was unconscious. He didn't react to Lin Feng's arrival at all. Lin Feng's eyes moved. He sat cross-legged on top of the ball of light, right above Wang Lin's head. The two of them were like bunk beds. The ball of light floated with the water. After floating for an unknown distance, a black stone pillar suddenly appeared in the middle of the river. The ball of light hit the black stone pillar, but didn't bounce off. Instead, it stuck tightly to the stone pillar. Lin Feng stared at the black stone pillar and observed it for a while. He reached out and touched the stone pillar. Instantly, a large portion of the incantation flowed into his mind. This is the underworld nirvana technique. This is the incantation to refine the underworld pearl. Lin Feng's heart moved. So that's how it is. After Wang Lin wakes up, he will obtain the underworld nirvana technique here and comprehend the Tao, technique, and divine abilities contained within the underworld pearl and then completely refine this treasure. With the underworld pearl in hand, even that old ghost Seekong Nan can't do anything to him. With treasures and incantations, Wang Lin, this hidden dragon, should ascend to the heavens. He'll step onto the golden path that will kill all gods and Buddhas that stand in his way. This was probably the path that Wang Lin should have walked to become the son of heaven. Lin Feng chuckled. Since such a good thing happened to him, he naturally wouldn't hold back. Lin Feng didn't plan on taking away the opportunity that should have belonged to Wang Lin, but he couldn't let Wang Lin comprehend the underworld nirvana technique on his own and refine the underworld pearl on his own. Letting him, the master, teach him the incantation and guide him in refining the treasure was the right pace. Thinking about this, Lin Feng smiled and calmed down. He began to seriously comprehend the mysteries of the underworld nirvana technique that came from the black stone pillar. Inside the underworld pearl was a consciousness space that didn't have a physical body. The space was extremely vast. At a place extremely far away from the black stone pillar, a figure suddenly floated up from the raging underworld river. It was Sikong Nan. However, the current Sikong Nan was very different from before. He was no longer shrouded in black fog and ghastly chi. Instead, his entire body had turned into the same dim yellow color as the underworld real water. His body was also translucent. The old ghost's aura had also become the same as the underworld real water. Within the calmness, there was an aura of annihilation and purification. Although I'm not dead, my life is worse than death. I was actually refined by this treasure, the underworld pearl. I can't leave this underworld pearl for the rest of my life. Sikong Nan's face was twisted and full of resentment. However, this is also a blessing in disguise. Not only do I no longer have to fear this underworld real water, I can even control it. Silently, Sikong Nan sensed for a moment. The underworld real water carried his body and rushed towards the direction of the black stone pillar. You two juniors, you're dead for sure this time. Xiao Yin and the other two walked on the road in a hurry, returning to Hung Yu Mountain together. Xiao Budian suddenly blinked his eyes and said in a low voice, "Two senior brothers, someone is following us." The huge black sword on Xiao Yan's back suppressed his magic power. It made it difficult for him to even travel, and he didn't have any spare energy to sense his surroundings. Hearing Xiao Budian's words, he controlled the urge to turn his head and look behind him. Quietly, he glanced at Zhu Yi from the corner of his eyes. Zhu Yi also didn't act rashly. Instead, he quietly spread out his magic power to investigate. After a moment, Zhu Yi nodded almost imperceptibly. There's indeed someone. His cultivation is only at the chi refinement stage. He's not that great, master, just now. Xiao Budian's big black eyes turned. Just now, when we left Chuzhou City, there was a group of people walking towards us. There was an old man among them. I don't know why, but he kept staring at me. Could he be with him? After a moment of silence, Xiao Yin said decisively, "Find a place ahead and get rid of them." Chapter 69. After knowing that they were being followed, Xiao Yin was silent for a moment, then decisively said, "Find a place in front and get rid of them." He was now carrying the huge black sword on his back, so his movement speed was as slow as a turtle's crawl. If he allowed the people following them to expose their whereabouts, the enemy's main force would quickly catch up to them. Xiao Budian and Zhu Yi looked at each other and slightly nodded. They were both decisive people and could not tolerate people with bad intentions following behind them. Having reached a tacit understanding, the three Marshall brothers no longer talked and did not deliberately speed up. However, they gradually deviated from their original route and quietly turned into a dense forest on the side of the road. At this time, the two Yu family cultivators who were following them revealed themselves and hurriedly chased into the forest. With the huge black sword on his back, Xiao Yan's figure was extremely heavy. Every step he took left a footprint on the ground, so the two Yu family cultivators were not afraid of losing him. One of the taller cultivators muttered as he walked, "Why does young Master Tian want us to follow these three brats? It's a complete waste of time." The shorter cultivator shushed him and said in a low voice, "Whatever young master says, we'll do it. Don't talk so much nonsense." As he said that, the footprints in front of them suddenly disappeared. The two cultivators reacted quickly and immediately knew that something was wrong and that they had most likely been exposed. Before they could react further, the dense foliage above their heads rustled. The two of them subconsciously looked up and heard a hoo sound. A huge black sword had already filled their vision. Xiao Yin grabbed the huge black iron sword and descended from the sky. Holding the sword hilt with both hands, he chopped down with astonishing power. However, the huge black iron sword was too heavy, so Xiao Yin could not nimbly brandish it. The power of the sword was truly astonishing, but the Tu family cultivators revealed a disdainful smile. The two of them lightly jumped back together and escaped the attack range of the huge black iron sword. The huge sword was too heavy, so Xiao Yin could not change his direction and could only watch as the two of them avoided the tip of the sword. However, Xiao Yin did not care and even had the time to laugh at the Tu family cultivators. His smile baffled the other two, but in the next moment, their scalps suddenly went numb, and their hair stood on end, as if a disaster was about to befall them. Xiao Budian carried the hammer-like white bone hammer and silently appeared behind the short cultivator. With a skill that couldn't be any more skillful, he knocked on the back of the short cultivator's head with a dong sound. The short cultivator let out a blood-curdling scream as he saw stars in front of his eyes. He struggled to turn around, forcing himself to focus and not lose consciousness. But just as he turned around, before he could see anything clearly, a white shadow flashed before his eyes, and another hammer smashed down on his head. The short cultivator's eyelids rolled, and he no longer had the strength to struggle. He simply lay down on his back and fainted. Xiao Budian's two consecutive strikes were really fast, accurate, and ruthless. He had already practiced it to the point of perfection. Even if Lin Feng was here, he couldn't help but sigh. This kid really had a talent in this promising career of knocking out people. Zhu Yi and the tall cultivator, who were still fighting at the side, also slowed down and looked at Xiao Budian at the same time. Xiao Budian, this extremely cute little boy with red lips and white teeth, looked too out of place when he used such a fierce, violent, and skillful knocking out people. This kid didn't even realize it himself. Instead, he was proud of himself and said to Zhu Yi with a smile, "Second senior brother, this is our sect's secret technique, specially used to capture opponents alive. When Master taught you, you were not even initiated, so you didn't have time to learn it. Later, I will show you again. Once you learn it, you won't have to go through so much trouble next time." Zhu Yi's 10 years of hard work finally broke down at this moment. The corner of his mouth twitched as he shook his head. I don't think I should learn it. Looking at this little guy who had the highest cultivation among his fellow disciples, but was willing to call himself the little junior brother, Zhu Yi actually felt a slight chill on his back. The tall cultivator looked at Xiao Budian, and his eyes were even straighter. Was this still a child who was not even 5 years old? If so, why did he have such a high cultivation? More importantly, why did he have such a thick skin? What kind of sect's secret technique was used to capture opponents alive? It was basically a sneak attack to stun them with a stick. The short cultivator had already fainted. If he woke up and understood the truth of the matter, he would definitely be like the tall cultivator at this moment, with billions of ancient Tyrannosaurus dragons running wildly in his heart. Xiao Yin grasped the huge black iron sword in his hand in distress and said to Zhu, "Second junior brother, don't listen to his nonsense. Master was just joking with him, and this kid took it seriously. Or should I say, he clearly knows that Master was joking, but this move is too much to this brat's liking, so now he is using Master's name to swagger around the city." Xiao Budian laughed happily at the side, while Zhu Yi smiled bitterly and shook his head. "I can't use this thing when fighting with people for a short period of time." Xiao Yin sighed and let go of the huge black iron sword, raising yellow dust on the ground. The next moment, Xiao Yan's figure flashed and disappeared from where he was standing. "Let's attack together and finish this quickly." The tall cultivator was stunned. He saw that Xiao Yin suddenly appeared in front of him, and the cultivation that was previously suppressed by the huge black iron sword completely burst out, punching towards the tall cultivator's face. Awkwardly dodging Xiao Yan's punch, the tall cultivator only felt a chill on his neck, and a long sword was already held against his neck. The long sword was held in Zhu Yi's hand. The green-robed scholar had one hand behind his back, and his expression was indifferent. It's better if you don't move. We already have a survivor. Whether you leave or not depends on your performance. At the mention of a survivor, looking at the short cultivator who was still unconscious on the ground, Zhu Yi's eyebrows twitched a few times, and he unhappily looked at Xiao Budian. Xiao Budian walked over with a smile and asked, "Okay, tell me, why are you following us?" The tall cultivator wanted to open his mouth to talk nonsense, but when he saw Xiao Budian's bright eyes and then saw Xiao Budian weighing the white bone hammer in his hand, he suddenly felt a chill on the back of his head. He could only bite the bullet and say, "I'm a cultivator from the Yu family. If you're smart, you'd better let us go, otherwise you'll suffer." The smile on Xiao Budian's face gradually disappeared, and he didn't say anything. Silently, he looked at the tall cultivator. This person never thought that he would be stared at by a 4 or 5-year-old child. Xiao Yan and Zhu Yi looked at each other, and Zhu Yi softly said, "Is it sure Tiany's maternal grandfather's family?" Xiao Yan calmly nodded. Zhu Yi turned his head to look at the tall cultivator. A person who helps the evildoer directly behead him. The tall cultivator's heart went cold, and when he looked at Xiao Budian's expressionless little face, his courage suddenly disappeared. But he was only following orders, and he didn't know why he was following Xiao Budian. Xiao Budian and the other two quickly reacted. After knocking the tall cultivator unconscious, Xiao Yan said in a deep voice, "Did they recognize little junior brother?" Zhu Yi nodded. "It's very likely. Maybe they can't be sure, so they only sent these two to follow, but they must have some suspicions." Xiao Budian lowered his head. "I'm a burden to you guys." Xiao Yan waved his hand and said indifferently, "What are you talking about? We're fellow disciples. There's nothing to be a burden about." He looked at the black iron sword on the ground and scratched his head in distress. "If you're talking about a burden, it's me who's a burden to you guys. Is there any way to take this thing and walk faster without leaving any traces?" Xiao Yan frowned. "The three of us spent all our money on this thing. It's a pity to throw it away." Hearing this, Zhu Yi and Xiao Budian also frowned. Chapter 70. In a mountain stream, a bamboo raft floated down. On the bamboo raft sat a green-robed scholar and a 4 or 5-year-old child. The two sat on the bamboo raft. Other than controlling the direction of the bamboo raft, not only did they not speed up, they were controlling the bamboo raft to not drift too fast with the current. A few bubbles suddenly appeared in the water beside the bamboo raft. Then, a black-clothed youth dashed out of the water, lightly landed on the bamboo raft, and greedily breathed in the fresh air. If only I had Master's black cloud flag, then I wouldn't have to use so much effort. The black-clothed youth was naturally Xiao Yan. The magic power in his body revolved, and steam rose from his body, instantly evaporating his clothes. Zhu Yi said, "There's no point in saying that now. Although this method is still very slow, at least we won't expose our whereabouts." The little guy jumped up from the raft and smiled. "It's my turn." He dived into the water and dived to the bottom. Xiao Yan's huge black iron sword sank into the sand and stones at the bottom of the water, dragging a perfectly straight line at the bottom of the water. The little guy grabbed the huge black iron sword. The weight was secondary. The key was that his magic power had become stagnant. He thought, "Eldest senior brother's item is really strange. Although it's a burden, it's a pity to throw it away. I should bring it back to Master to take a look." Then, the little guy hung the huge black iron sword at the bottom of the water and dragged it between the sand and stones. He raised his head to look at the bamboo raft above his head to determine his direction. On the bamboo raft, Xiao Yan laughed bitterly. "I'm throwing my life away for money, right?" Zhu Yi smiled slightly. "Master often says there are always more solutions than difficulties. Although it's simple, it's very reasonable. The three of them stared blankly in the forest for a long time. Finally, they thought of a method that wasn't really a solution. They used the waterway to hide their tracks. However, the huge black iron sword was too heavy. The small boat and the bamboo raft couldn't carry it at all, so they could only take turns to drag it underwater. Just a dozen li behind the three of them, a group of people was chasing along the stream. The leading young man was Yu Tian, a direct descendant of a Yu family. He was handsome, but his face was extremely gloomy. This mountain stream has countless branches. If we keep chasing like this, it's very easy to go the wrong way. He turned and walked to the back of the group. There was a simple black, clothed old man resting with his eyes closed. He was being carried by a few Yu family servants. Yu Tian respectfully saluted. "Elder Yu, please make a move. This is very important to the family." The eyelids of the black-clothed old man who was called Elder Yu did not even twitch as he said indifferently, "I'm only responsible for protecting your safety. I don't care about anything else." Yu Tian frowned slightly, but did not dare to persuade him any further. He could only retreat to the side, thinking, why did the clan send this old monster over? So unlucky. He didn't dare to say these words out loud. Instead, he looked at Yuelao with a fearful expression, then hurriedly lowered his head and turned to leave. The black-robed old man did not exude any aura of dermic powers. However, as he sat there with his eyes closed, he was like an immovable mountain. The bamboo raft turned around a bend in the river, and their field of vision widened. He stood at the front of the bamboo raft and gazed into the distance. Next, we have to return to land, or else the direction will become more and more off. Xiaoyan nodded his head and used his mana to send a message to Xiao Budian. Then he jumped onto the shore with Zhu Yi. Xiao Budian also dragged the huge black iron sword out of the water, returning the huge black iron sword to Xiaoyan. He walked while recovering his mana. Zhu Yi asked, "There are pursuers behind us. Do we still return to Hengyu Mountain and wait? Or do we directly go find Master?" Xiaoyan pondered. Before he had time to reply, an aged voice suddenly sounded. "Young Master, he has already taken someone else's master? This is really not good. The Marquis once said that before young Master he learns the scriptures well, you can't practice martial arts." The expressions of Zhu Yi and his fellow apprentices changed at the same time. Zhu Yi's eyebrows twitched, calmly calling out, "Mr. Tao Heir." The person who came is a wizened and skinny old man. He is precisely the second steward of the house of the Marquis of Xuanji, Mr. Tao Heir. Following the appearance of Mr. Tao Heir, more and more cultivators of the house of the Marquis walked out from the forest behind him. Tao Heir carefully sized up Zhu Yi, revealing an expression of admiration. "Not even half a year, and you've reached Qi Disciple Level 6. Young Master, he has such great talent. No wonder the blood of the Marquis flows in your veins. But you disobeyed the orders of the Marquis. This is not good." Zhu Yi took a deep breath and said in a deep voice, "Father's cultivation is high. That is his ability. My cultivation today came from my own hard work and my master's teachings." Tao Heir shook his head. "Young Master, he doesn't understand. The Marquis is a just person and has 1,000 merits. His arrangements are definitely correct. You only need to follow the path the Marquis has arranged for you." Hearing this, not only Zhu Yi, Xiao Yin, and Xiao Budian also frowned. Tao Heir didn't care at all, continuing to slowly say, "The reason I came out this time, one is to investigate the disappearance of Huang San. The other is to find young Master Yi." Zhu Yi calmly said, "Huang San and the others died at the hands of the Golden Elixir period cultivator Liu Yang of the Mount Shu Sword Sect. I saw it with my own eyes." "Mount Shu Sword Sect." Tao Heir nodded his head, then asked, "Then, young Master Yi, how did you escape? Where are those traitors of the Society of the Strong Gale?" Zhu Yi answered, "The people of the Society of the Strong Gale escaped through the teleportation formation. My master saved me. After that, I've been learning the Tao from my master." Tao air made a sound of, and since that's the case, then we can only leave it at that for now. Young master, you can follow me home right now. You've been away from home for so many days. The Marquis and the Madam both miss you a lot. Silently, said, I want to learn the Tao from my master. In the future, when I'm successful, I'll naturally go back. Tao air smiled. Young master, you must be joking. Even though you're not the Marquis's legitimate son and can't learn the Marquis's great Tao, but the Marquis will naturally arrange a suitable master for you. There's no need for you to find a master yourself. So, young master, you follow me back to Tianjin right now. Tao air said as a matter of fact. If you're worried that your master won't be clear, then I'll help you talk to him. If he really is a great master, then he'll definitely understand reason. How can he bear to separate his disciple from his parents? Xiao Yin and Xiao Budian's expressions changed slightly. Just as they were about to move, they were stopped by Zhu Yi. Zhu Yi looked up at Tao air and calmly said, Master has saved my life and taught me. A teacher for a day, a teacher for a lifetime. I appreciate Mr. Tao air's kindness. Please report back to my father. One day, I will definitely return to Tianjin, but not now. Tao air fixed his eyes on Zhu Yi and sighed. Young master, Yi is usually the most filial, but now you've been led down the evil path. It's clear that your master is definitely an evil person. May I ask young master, Yi, to tell me where he is now? This old servant has gotten rid of this evil person. Such an evil person should be crippled of his cultivation, drowned in a cesspit, and paraded through the streets to warn the world. Not only Xiao Yin and Xiao Budian were angry, even Zhu Yi's face darkened, but Tao air continued to say, Also, before I left, the Marquis instructed that if I find young Master Yi, I must bring young Master Yi back safely. The Marquis's orders must be completed. As he spoke, the group of cultivators from the house of the Marquis of Xuanji behind him had already spread out, surrounding Zhu Yi and the other two in the middle. The hearts of Zhu Yi and the other two instantly sunk to the bottom. Within the underworld pearl, at the center of the river, Wang Lin, who was in the ball of light, still has not awakened. Lin Feng silently sat on the ball of light, his mind still seriously trying to figure out the underworld nirvana technique scripture on the black stone pillar. In the distance, the underworld true water suddenly made a crashing sound. The surging underworld true water carried a figure that was rapidly approaching. The figure was precisely Sikong Nan. When he saw Lin Feng, he instantly laughed loudly. Junior, the humiliation you gave me before, I will now return it to you 100-fold. Chapter 71. Sikong then waved his hands, and the surging Yellow Springs true water whizzed towards Lin Feng, turning into a monstrous wave and crashing down. Lin Feng was at a critical moment in his comprehension of the Yellow Springs nirvana technique. Sikong Nan's sudden interruption made Lin Feng extremely annoyed. 24 relics floated above Lin Feng's head, the surging Buddhist light turning into a golden cloud that supported the Yellow Springs true water falling from the sky. The magic power cultivated from Buddhism was the thickest and most condensed. Even the Yellow Springs true water could not dissolve it in a short time, but the golden cloud was still melting at a speed visible to the naked eye. It would not last much longer. Sikong then sneered at Lin Feng. Let me see how long you can last. As he spoke, he urged the Yellow Springs true water to attack Lin Feng. Lin Feng furrowed his brows, communicating with the baby Taotai Tuntin in his ring. I don't want it. Tuntin shrieked, shaking its head like a drum as it shouted in exasperation. You're too bad. You want me to drink the Yellow Springs true water? Lin Feng chuckled. It doesn't matter if you refuse, but I have to make it clear to you first. Other than this thing, there's nothing else I can give you to eat in a short time. If you don't want it, you can go hungry. Tuntin hesitated. Lin Feng saw her expression and asked, You've drunk the Yellow Springs true water before? Yes, it tasted very good. Tuntin hesitated for a moment before saying, But my head felt dizzy after drinking it, and I couldn't remember many things in the past. Lin Feng clicked his tongue. The Taotai was indeed one of the 4 ancient ferocious beasts. It could swallow the heavens and the earth, and was not even afraid of the tyrannical Yellow Springs' true water. It only lost some memories, and its magic power was not purified. What are you afraid of? Everything is good if it tastes good. Food is delicious. Lin Feng kept persuading. Tuntun's expression grew more and more conflicted. She knew that Lin Feng did not have good intentions, but her gluttonous instincts could not be restrained. For Tao Tai, eating was an instinctive reaction on the same level as survival. I don't care anymore. I'll eat my fill first. I'm going to starve to death for more than half a year. Finally, the little loli shouted in annoyance. Her body had already changed back into the original form of Tao Tai. Lin Feng tossed the ring into the air and removed the heaven cage sigil within it. A huge suction force immediately came from the ring and swallowed the Yellow Springs' true water like a black hole. While the Buddhist light and the ring blocked the river water, Lin Feng seized the opportunity to comprehend the netherworld nirvana technique. While he was trying to figure out the Tao, he was also trying to communicate with the netherworld water. Just like how the art of Akala cultivated the rage of the Akala, the art of Yellow Springs cultivated the art of Yellow Springs, cultivated the true water of the Yellow Springs. Comparing the two, combining theory with practice, many of the questions that had been bothering Lin Feng were suddenly cleared up. In his mind, it was as if there was a long river surging past. The river water flowed endlessly, like time itself, unstoppable and unstoppable. Silently, Lin Feng looked at his own reflection in the river water. The reflection was not his fixed appearance, but constantly changing into all kinds of images. There was a beautiful newlywed girl. There was an old man with one foot in the grave. There was a Buddhist monk chanting Buddhist scriptures. There was a thief who licked blood on the edge of a blade. There was a handsome and elegant young man. One after another, small fragments, thousands of reincarnations. A layer of understanding rose in Lin Feng's mind. This is my previous life, the life before that, the countless reincarnations of my previous life. The Yellow Springs reincarnation, nirvana rebirth. All living things walk towards death and decay here, and then be reborn. Mysterious life and death reincarnation. The path of nirvana resounded in Lin Feng's mind, ultimately fusing into one. Even the magic power in his body formed a line, as if there was a Yellow Springs river flowing silently in the netherworld. Lin Feng opened his eyes, looking at the surging true water of the Yellow Springs in front of him, a faint smile appearing on his face. Seeing his smile, Sikong Nan's heart trembled for no reason, as if a great disaster was about to befall him. The cross-legged sitting Lin Feng suddenly stood up, retrieving Tuntun's ring. The Buddha light and golden cloud above his head rose into the air, no longer blocking the true water of the Yellow Springs, allowing the endless river water to fall on his body. Sikong Nan's eyes widened. He was shocked to find that the true water of the Yellow Springs had fallen on Lin Feng's body, but Lin Feng was unharmed. Not a single drop of the true water of the Yellow Springs touched his body. Instead, it fell docilely at Lin Feng's feet, lifting Lin Feng up. The true water of the Yellow Springs that purified and killed all living things in the world was now like a docile servant, obediently kneeling at Lin Feng's feet, lifting Lin Feng up like a king. At this moment, the Buddha light above Lin Feng's head shone eternally, and the Yellow Springs river flowed endlessly under his feet. With the heavens above his head and the Yellow Springs under his feet, Sikong Nin blankly stared at this scene. How is this possible? Lin Feng smiled. Why is it impossible? He swept a glance at Sikong Nan and said with a smile, "Come down." With this order, the true water of the Yellow Springs that lifted Sikong Nan's body suddenly fell. Being caught off guard, Sikong Nan fell directly into the raging Yellow Springs River. Sikong Nan was shocked. Having been completely refined by the Yellow Springs pearl, all of his arcane energy had fused with the true water of the Yellow Springs. He could no longer use his skills and techniques. If he couldn't control the true water of the Yellow Springs, he would be like a lamb waiting to be slaughtered. Unfortunately, No matter how hard he tried, the true water of the yellow springs had no reaction. Lin Feng wasn't in a hurry to make a move. He only looked at Sikong Nan with a faint smile. At this moment, Sikong Nan felt as if someone had poured a bucket of cold water over him. He felt a chill from head to toe, and despair rose in his heart. He roared like a trapped beast. Even so, you can't do anything to me. I become one with the Yellow Springs Pearl. Unless you destroy the Yellow Springs Pearl, you can't kill me. With your cultivation, you can't destroy the Yellow Springs Pearl. Who said I want to destroy the Yellow Springs Pearl? To destroy such a treasure so easily, isn't that a reckless waste of God's gifts? Lin Feng chuckled and shook his head. Plus, who told you that I can only kill you if I destroy the Yellow Springs Pearl? Sikong Nan was stunned. He had a bad feeling. In the next moment, he suddenly felt the true water of the yellow springs around him become thicker and thicker. It was so heavy that he couldn't breathe. The originally murky yellow water slowly turned black. The black true water of the yellow springs kept invading Sikong Nan's soul. Sikong Nan felt like he was drowning. Lin Feng said leisurely, "You don't know, right? The Yellow Springs Nirvana technique has given birth to a technique called the Netherworld puppet manipulation. It can use the true water of the Yellow Springs to refine people into puppets. This puppet is different from your 100 ghosts walk in the night. You refine people into malicious spirits and only retain their arcane energy and cultivation from when they were alive. However, their memories and intelligence are wiped away, leaving only resentment and murderous intent. Although it's easy to control, it's still inferior." Lin Feng chuckled and said, "My Netherworld puppet manipulation technique can refine people into puppets. Not only can they retain their memories from when they were alive, but they will also retain their self-awareness." Retaining their memories from when they were alive meant that the puppet not only had their arcane energy and cultivation from when they were alive, but their techniques would also be preserved. They would also have the rich battle experience of a cultivator when they were alive. Retaining their self-awareness meant that they had intelligence, could think, and could adapt flexibly. Sikong Nan's heart grew colder and colder. Lin Feng looked at him and smiled. "Simply put, you're the same as before you were turned into a puppet, except for one thing. That is, you will unconditionally obey any order I give you." Sikong Nan roared in despair. His originally murky yellow, almost transparent soul was completely dyed black by the true water of the Yellow Springs. Then, it was swallowed by the raging river and sealed at the bottom of the river. After suppressing Sikong Nan, Lin Feng's mind finally relaxed. His heart slightly moved, and he looked down at the ball of light under his feet. In the ball of light, Wang Lin's soul moved and finally woke up. He opened his eyes with a blank expression. Chapter 72. Wang Lin, who was in the ball of light, finally woke up. He looked around and saw Sikong Nan roaring in despair as he was swallowed by the Yellow Springs water. Thinking back to when Sikong Nan wanted to kill him, Wang Lin was slightly shocked. He raised his head and saw a young man wearing a white robe and a crown made of feathers and stars smiling at him. The young Taoist in the white robe had a golden cloud above his head, and the Yellow Springs flowed endlessly under his feet. He looked like an immortal, making Wang Lin feel ashamed of his own inferiority. Wang Lin slowly remembered the last scene he saw before he fainted. It was this immortal descending from the sky, forcing Sikong Nan to retreat and saving him. Now, it seemed that Sikong Nan had been killed and he was saved. Wang Lin hurriedly said, "I was rude earlier and let down a mortal master's good intentions. Now that a mortal master has saved me, I am ashamed." Lin Feng thought to himself, "It's good that you know." But on the surface, he only smiled faintly. "Silly boy, it's good that you're fine. It's just a small matter. It's nothing to me." Wang Lin paused, his face showing an awkward expression. He wanted to say something, but he was too embarrassed to do so. Lin Feng knew what he was thinking and smiled. "Are you still willing to be my disciple?" Wang Lin knelt on the ground. "I didn't know the immensity of heaven and earth and disrespected immortal master. I am grateful that a mortal master didn't abandon me and even save my life. I am willing to be a mortal master's disciple and listen to your orders. Please accept me." Lin Feng looked up to the sky and sighed. He was actually more excited than Wang Lin. Finally, at this moment, Lin Feng even had the urge to cry. There were actually only 5 days left from the 1-year mission deadline. If he dragged on for another 5 days and couldn't complete the mission, then with the system's annoying nature, it definitely wouldn't go easy on him. It would definitely kill him if it said so. The system notifications kept ringing in his ears. It was like the sound of an immortal, unprecedentedly beautiful. "Congratulations to the host for accepting the 4th disciple, Wang Lin. The host has received 1 lucky draw ticket and 500 exchange points. Congratulations to the host for completing the 1st main mission. Special reward for main mission released." Lin Feng really wanted to take a look at his mission reward first, but Wang Lin was still eagerly looking at him in front of him. Lin Feng could only forcefully suppress his excitement, saying with an indifferent expression, "This underworld pearl is a rare treasure. Keep it for yourself and study the mysteries within." Wang Lin's mouth moved, but he didn't make a sound. Lin Feng knew what he was thinking when he saw this. He smiled and said, "This treasure is good, but I don't care about it. This is your own opportunity. Treasure it." You also have 3 Marshall brothers. Once you meet them, you will understand that although I will impart all of my knowledge to you, how far you can go on this path of cultivation in the future will still depend on your own efforts. Wang Lin thought that Sikong Nin is so evil, but Master can easily kill him. Master doesn't care about the treasure that I value as much as my life. Although I don't know what Master's cultivation is, it must be very high. Cultivating with Master is better than being a servant in the Hung Yu sect. With that thought, Wang Lin's heart was burning. "Dad, Mom, I will definitely work hard. I will definitely become an immortal." Lin Feng was currently looking at the system's information on Wang Lin. Name, Wang Lineage, 15 years and 6 months. Current cultivation, guiding Qi into the body, about to reach Qi Disciple Level 1. Potential attribute, Root Bone, 5. Comprehension, 10. Will, 10. Luck, 8. Recommended education plan. Recommended to cultivate water type, Dao techniques, or demonic Dao techniques. Recommended to focus on spells as the main direction of development. Note, root bone talent is low, so it will be difficult to cultivate in the early stages. However, it will not be easy to reach a bottleneck when advancing to the next stage. Right now, Lin Feng has 2 water Dao techniques on hand. One is the Blue Ocean River technique, and the other is the Underworld Nirvana technique. The latter is much stronger than the former, and it should have originally belonged to Wang Lin's fortuitous encounter. With the assistance of the Underworld Pearl, it should be able to help Wang Lin pass through the difficult early stages of cultivation as quickly as possible. After teaching Wang Lin the Yellow Springs Nirvana art, Wang Lin completely refined the Yellow Springs Pearl. Inside the Yellow Springs Pearl, he was the absolute master. Even Lin Feng could only protect himself. However, Wang Lin did not look proud at all. He understood that this was all an arrangement made by Lin Feng to nurture him. Although Wang Lin seemed quiet, he valued kindness, friendship, and enmity very much. Today, Lin Feng saved his life, took him in as a disciple, and gave him a fateful encounter. He firmly remembered this kindness in his heart. Wang Lin refined the Yellow Springs Pearl. Under Lin Feng's guidance, his spirit left the Yellow Springs Pearl and returned to his physical body. At this time, Lin Feng completely retracted his spirit from the Yellow Springs Pearl. He looked at Wang Lin and nodded in satisfaction. He had gained a lot this time. He had taken Wang Lin, the Son of Heaven, as his disciple, cultivated a top-grade Dao technique like the Yellow Springs Nirvana art, mastered the spell Netherworld puppet manipulation, and refined an old devil into a puppet. However, although the Netherworld puppet manipulation was good, it had its flaws. For example, it could only be refined when the other party's physical body was destroyed and only the spirit was left. Moreover, after refining the Netherworld puppet manipulation, the puppet was actually equivalent to a dead person. Its cultivation was fixed when it was alive and could not continue to improve. In addition, if the difference in cultivation between the caster and the other party was too great, it could not be refined. Instead, it could backfire. However, what made Lin Feng the happiest was the system reward after completing the mission. Apart from taking in Wang Lin as his disciple and receiving the usual lucky draw chance and 500 exchange points, there was also a special prize for completing the main mission. The special prize was a mysterious box with a question mark on it. However, Lin Feng noticed that there was a difference between this and the mysterious box in his lucky draw system. In the lucky draw system, the mysterious box that was the grand prize was black. However, this main mission reward box in front of him was silver. It looked much more advanced. Lin Feng did not hesitate to open the box. After taking a look, his eyes immediately popped out, and he could not pull them out of the box. This thing hiss. Lin Feng came back to his senses after a long time. He took a deep breath and felt that his brain was not enough. Master. Wang Lin saw that his master seemed to be thinking about something. He did not want to disturb him, but he was afraid of delaying his master's business. Lin Feng woke up and turned to look at Wang Lin. What's the matter? Wang Lin held a sparkling crystal in his hand. I can see that this crystal has been flashing nonstop. Lin Feng's eyes narrowed. That was a sound transmission crystal. Could it be that something happened to the three of them? He crushed the crystal, and Zhu Yi's voice came from inside. Master, we met people from the Yu family. They might have recognized Junior Brother. We're trying our best to get rid of them. Eldest Senior Brother was worried that we would disturb Master's seclusion, so he did not inform you. However, this disciple was afraid that something might happen, so I specially reported it to Master. Lin Feng took a deep breath and raised his hand to put away the black cloud flag that enveloped the valley. Then, he gently waved the flag. As the black light flowed, he and Wang Lin were swept up together. Let's go. Chapter 73. Tao Er stood in the same place without moving, while a group of cultivators from the house of the Marquis surrounded him. The three Zhu Yi brothers stood side by side. Zhu Yi smiled bitterly. Now it seems that I have dragged you guys down first. Xiao Yin and Xiao Budian both smiled without a care. Tao Er, who had not moved, suddenly raised his eyelids. His originally muddy old eyes suddenly burst with divine light. It's actually a Buddhist remnant. Tao Er's eyes were like lightning, looking into the depths of the forest. A gray-clothed man wearing a conical bamboo hat slowly walked out from the mountain forest. Taking off the bamboo hat, a shiny bald head was revealed. Xiao Yin and the other two were dumbfounded when they saw him. The person who came was precisely the gray-clothed monk who stopped them in the Chuzhou market. The three brothers looked at each other, feeling ashamed. No matter how stupid they were, they now understood that this monk had been following them. The gray-clothed monk put his palms together. This monk is the Great Thunder Sound Temple's Hui Kong. Mr. Tao Er greets you. Tao Er laughed. You know that I am here, yet you still dare to show yourself? Hui Kong calmly said, I want to get back the relic of my sect's elders. Even if there is a mountain of knives, a sea of fire, or hell in front of me, I will still move forward without fear. Tao Er stopped smiling and nodded. In that case, you should quickly enter the cycle of reincarnation and follow your sex elders. With that, Tao Er raised his fist. The mana in his body surged, forming a mighty Vajra shadow in the air. The Vajra stared angrily at Hui Kong. A strong spiritual pressure spread across the whole area. Zhu Yi and the other two were not his targets, but facing Tao Er at this moment, they felt that their bodies could not move. This skinny old man's tyrannical strength was completely revealed in this one move. His skinny body exploded with infinite power. Zhu Yi thought, no wonder Huang San would be so respectful in front of him. It is not because of respect, but because of fear of Tao Er's power that is above his. Dragon Elephant Vajra Fist. Hui Kong's eyes suddenly widened. Anger appeared in his eyes for the first time. Because the martial divine ability Tao Er executed was shockingly the guardian divine ability of the great Thunderclap Monastery that shook the world all those years ago. Tao Er leisurely smiled. That's right, it is the dragon elephant Vajra fist. In the past, the Marquis led an army to annihilate your great Lane temple and collected your Tao techniques and supernatural powers as spoils of war, bestowing them to all the soldiers who participated in the battle. This old man is untalented and only managed to obtain this fist manual of the Dragon Elephant Vajra Punch. However, after several decades of hard work, I finally have some insights. You seem very dissatisfied. The monks of the Great Lane Temple have bewitched the hearts of the people and harmed the country, so they should be exterminated. However, your Tao skills and supernatural powers should not be destroyed just like that. Someone more suitable should learn and use them. But your Vajra said, the monks of the Vajra should be killed. Hui Kong fixed his gaze on Tao Er and took a deep breath. I'll get rid of you today. In the future, I'll definitely get even with that evil Zhu Hongwu. Finishing, he put his palms together. The boundless golden light of Buddha illuminated the forest for tens of miles. Within the golden light, a majestic and ferocious aura exploded. The silhouette of a rock could be faintly seen flashing within. Its wings spread open and it set off a strong gale, blowing everyone around, and countless ancient trees into the sky were blown down by the strong wind. Golden Pung Blade. Hui Kong chanted the name of Buddha. The rock in the Buddha's light flapped its wings, and tens of thousands of light blades shot towards Tao Er like a storm, like a golden rain of light covering the entire mountain range. Xiao Yin and Xiao Budian looked at each other, saying in a low voice, even stronger than that monk who used the Saraira. Xiao Budian grunted. Same as that old man from the Blaze Sword sect, they are both golden elixir period cultivators. Facing the torrential golden light rain, Tao Er was not flustered at all. Facing the rain of light, he threw out a punch, using the might of transforming into Vajra and suppressing evil to meet the attack head-on. This extremely strong punch seemed like it was going to completely shatter the space where Hui Kong was. The rain of light landed on Tao Er's body, continuously exploding. But it was as if Tao Er had transformed into Vajra, crossing the sea of bitterness, unmoving like a mountain, striking towards Hui Kong with an indomitable will. In the eyes of everyone, Hui Kong seemed to have become a demon clown, as if his body was going to be destroyed by this punch and enter the cycle of reincarnation. Hui Kong's expression slightly changed. He knew that he was not Tao Er's opponent. This Tao Er, as a golden elixir period cultivator, completely gave up on spells and instead trained his martial arts to the limit of his current realm. Spells and martial arts are both magical abilities. Martial arts are not as rich and varied as spells, but when trained to a certain level, it also has the great power to move mountains and move seas. Close combat is even stronger. Hui Kong took a deep breath. The rock and the golden light merged into one with his body and then turned into a stream of light, instantly escaping thousands of miles away, directly leaving Tao Er's attack range. Tao Er sighed. Great Peng Wind riding technique? I won't be able to kill you today. Hui Kong left as soon as he said he would, without any hesitation. His Great Peng Wind riding technique was the Great Lane Temple's strongest escape technique, able to travel thousands of miles in an instant. Although Tao Er's cultivation was higher than his, he could not catch up to him. Xiao Budian and the other two's faces were bitter. They originally thought that they would have a chance to escape after both sides were injured, but they never thought that the outcome would be decided so quickly. Although Hui Kong hated Tao Er, once he determined that he was not his opponent, he immediately escaped. He had no intention of fighting to the death. It was just that like this, the three of them had suffered. After chasing Hui Kong away, Tao Er turned his head and smiled. All right, young master, please bring this old servant to find the demon that bewitched you. Once you kill him, this old servant will bring you back to Tianjing to report to the Marquis. Xiao Yin and the other two's faces slightly changed. If they could, they would immediately bring Tao Air to see their master, and then let their master beat Tao Air until his teeth fell all over the ground. However, their master was currently in closed-door training. If they brought Tao Air over and disturbed their master, then it would be terrible. The three of them had the same thought. They all clenched their teeth and did not speak. Tao Air was just about to say something when he suddenly frowned. Why are there so many idlers today? Mr. Tao Air's words aren't right. To be honest, this is the land of my great Qin dynasty. Everyone who has come from afar is the true guest. A group of people walked out of the forest. The person leading them was precisely the direct descendant of the Yu family, Yu Tian. Feeling the ripples of magic power from Tao Air and Hui Kong's actions, the Yu family immediately rushed over with the target. Tao Air did not pay attention to Yu Tian, his gaze landing on the simple-faced Yuelao, who was being carried at the back of the group. Is it the giant spirit gate's Taoist Master Shanyu? At this time, Yuelao also did not close his eyes to rest. He stood up, looked at Tao Air, and slightly nodded. Mr. Tao Air of the house of the Marquis of Xuanji, this old man greets you. Tao Air said, I don't dare. Only then did his gaze turn towards Yu Tian. I wonder what young master you came here for? Yu Tian's gaze landed on Xiao Budian, asking the old man beside him, Are you sure it's this little demon? The old man nodded his head with certainty. I came today for this little demon. Yu Tian said, I wonder what Mr. Tao Air's target is. Tao Air looked at Zhu Yi and directly said, I came here to find my family's young master, Yi. I don't need the others. You could take them all away. But I have to first ask where their master is and get rid of that person. Yu Tian stared at Xiao Budian. A hint of ruthlessness flashed past his gaze. Oh, he even has a master? Then he indeed needs to be eliminated. Mr. Air, do you know where that person is? Tao Air shook his head. This time his gaze landed on Xiao, Yin, who he did not pay much attention to. Young master, Yi, I naturally can't force you. That child is yours. I don't care either. This black-clothed brat has no use. Just pry open his mouth and interrogate him. Chapter 74. Tao Air looked at Xiao Yin and lightly said, This black-clothed kid is useless. We'll pry open his mouth and interrogate him. Hearing this, Yu Tian looked at Xiao Yin and smiled maliciously. Not bad. That's exactly what I wanted. He waved his hand, and a few Yu family cultivators surrounded Xiao Yin to capture him. Xiao Yin coldly looked at this scene. At this time, he suddenly opened his mouth and said, I say, aren't you guys planning too well? His palm let go of the huge black iron sword. The huge sword smashed onto the ground with a loud bang, dust flying up. His two hands reached forward and magic power gathered in his palms, condensing into two flames. The flames burned fiercely, and in the next moment, they were compressed again and again until they became two dark red balls of light. Seeing these balls of light, Tao Air and Yu Tian's expression slightly changed. Red Lotus Break, Taishu Temple. Xiao Yan's expression was cold as he pushed his hands forward, and the two balls of light flew towards the incoming Yu family cultivators. Boom! Boom! Two huge flames burst out in an instant, and before the two Yu clan cultivators could react, their bodies had already exploded into a mist of blood. The roaring flames instantly swallowed the flesh and blood, turning them into ashes without leaving a single residue. Two huge, deep pits were blown up on the ground, and the entire cliff looked like it was going to be torn apart. The others stared dumbfoundedly at the tragic scene in front of them. Although they were all people who killed indiscriminately and their hands were covered in blood, seeing their companions explode into nothingness by Xiao Yan's Red Lotus, everyone felt a chill. Tao Air's eyes flashed. Take them down, I want them alive, and ask them about their origins. The cultivators beside him also surrounded them. As Xiao Yin made his move, Zhu Yi and Xiao Budian also rushed forward. Using the cover of Xiao Yan's Red Lotus Break flames, they instantly charged into the enemy's formation. Thunder surged out from the two of them, and for a moment, lightning flashed, dyeing everyone's line of sight blue and purple. In the next moment, two gigantic lightning blades appeared out of thin air and intersected with each other, forming a cross. They streaked through the air like a sickle used to mow grass. Wild Thunderblade. Xiao Budian and Zhu Yihu, both trained in the Nine Heavens Thunder technique, used the Wild Thunder Lightning Blade that Lin Feng taught them together. The Berserk Thunder Lightning Blade directly cut all the obstacles in front of them into pieces, crazily reaping lives. To catch bandits, first catch the ringleader. Zhu Yi shouted in a low voice and unsheathed the long sword at his waist. Xiao Yin and the little guy also made the same movements. The directionless flying swords, Sword Dao, and the Cloud Dragon escape technique were displayed to the fullest by the three of them. They turned into three long rainbows and flew into the sky together. The three brothers were not stupid enough to go against Tao Er, who was considered strong during the Golden Elixir period. Yu Tian also didn't expect that these three brats, who looked like they were only at the Qi disciple stage, would actually be so ferocious. Their mana was vigorous, and their divine abilities were amazing. In a moment, they actually killed his underlings and caused them to be thrown off their feet. Seeing that they were all rushing towards him, Yu Tian was so angry that he laughed instead. Good timing. He formed a seal with both hands, and a crystal bottle flew out from his sleeve. At first, it was only the size of a human's thumb, but as it moved with the wind, it grew to 12 meters tall in an instant, and the mouth of the bottle had a diameter of 3 meters. A powerful suction force emerged from the mouth of the crystal bottle, attempting to suck in Xiao Yin and the others. Xiao Yin shouted loudly, "Duo!" He also activated the Thundershock staff. For a moment, Buddhist light shone brightly, directly blocking the suction of the crystal bottle. But with this delay, the offensive of Xiao Yan's group was also disintegrated. Yu Tian sneered, and the Yu clan's direct lineage Dao technique, the dark art, was activated. The aura of magic power that was as vast as the ocean immediately pressed down on Xiao Yan's group, making it difficult for them to breathe. Seeing this, Tao Er praised. Young Master Yu is indeed worthy of being a direct descendant of the clan. Heavily nurtured, he has already established his Dao foundation at such a young age. Yu Tian's cultivation was too high compared to Xiao Budian's group. Fighting 1 against 3 was still easy. The vast white cold air practically formed a cover, enveloping the three of them. Within the range of the cold air, not only did Xiao Yan's group feel that their magic power circulation became sluggish, even their bodies were about to be frozen. Xiao Yan clenched his teeth. "Let's go all out." He threw away the long sword in his hand, and suddenly bent over to pick up that heavy and cumbersome black iron greatsword. "If you and I are really fated to meet today, then help me get through this crisis." Xiao Yan clenched his teeth, and his mind completely merged into the black iron greatsword. Rumble. As soon as he entered, Xiao Yan immediately knew that he had poked a hornet's nest. As if a tyrant that had always been in deep slumber was suddenly roused by someone, and let out the most terrifying roar. In Xiao Yan's mind, there were only flames, purple flames, endless flames. The flames that were like a vast ocean dyed the entire space, a terrifying and evil purple. Tao Er suddenly opened his eyes wide, and the expression of Yue Lao, who originally looked like he was half dead, also became a bit more serious. Within the dense white mist of cold air, Xiao Yan's pained and manic howl came out. In the next moment, a deep purple, 10-meter long, and as wide as a door, flaming greatsword soared into the sky, piercing through the cold mist. Xiao Yan roared angrily, and with a flaming greatsword in his hand, he raised it high above his head and pointed it towards the sky. His aura was so ferocious that it was as if he had descended into the mortal world, and was a flame god that could cleanse all evil. All of his enemies would be burnt to ashes. Yu Tian was dumbstruck, and stared blankly as Xiao Yan's sword tore through the vast cold mist and slashed towards him. The rapidly expanding flames streaked across the sky and almost tore the atmosphere apart, leaving behind a dark purple mark in the air that didn't disperse for a long time. This sword could exterminate all enemies below the golden elixir rank. Yuelao couldn't sit by idly anymore and coldly snorted. Waves of light flickered in front of Yution, and suddenly a black stone god mountain appeared. It was simple, heavy, vigorous, and indestructible. Xiao Yan's cultivation was too far apart from his, and the flaming greatsword was blocked by the black stone god mountain. Although the black stone god mountain kept shaking from the impact, it was ultimately unable to break through Yuelao's magic defense. The flaming greatsword exploded with a loud bang, and the flames that burst out turned into flying flames that filled the sky, causing the surrounding qi condensation and foundation establishment cultivators to cover their heads and flee like rats. Yuelao let out a long breath. Good fellow. However, he didn't show any mercy. With a hand seal, the black stone god mountain flew into the sky and pressed down toward Xiao Yan's head. Xiao Yan looked at this scene unwillingly, but he had no more strength to make a move. The black iron greatsword fell heavily onto the ground, and all of the magic power in his body was exhausted. He couldn't even move his little finger. Give me that sword of yours, too. Yuelao's voice rang out beside his ear. Xiao Yan wanted to resist, but the black stone god mountain directly pressed him onto the ground, and the black iron greatsword was already snatched away by someone. Yuelao waved the black iron greatsword. It's indeed not an ordinary item, but it's not something you deserve. As he spoke, the magic power in his hand increased, and the black stone god mountain shrunk to the size of a millstone. However, its weight increased instead, pressing down on Xiao Yan until he couldn't move at all. Speak. Where is that master of yours? Xiao Yan lay on the ground, clenching his teeth and not saying a word. All of the bones in his body were creaking, and the bones in his entire body were about to be crushed by Yuelao's magic. Zhu Yi and Xiao Budian cried out in alarm. Eldest senior brother. All of you silence. Xiao Yan growled, and blood faintly seeped out of his orifices. He struggled to turn his head to look at Yuelao, Yution, and Tao Er. Don't worry, old ghosts. One day, my master will come and settle the score with you guys, and cut off your dog heads. Tao Er walked up from the side, his face expressionless. That day won't come. The result will be me killing him. Too bad you're destined to not be able to see that spectacular scene. Yution, who was still in shock, finally came back to his senses. He stared at Xiao Yan with a gloomy expression. He never would have thought that he was almost killed by a Qi disciple level 9 brat. At this moment, he was a bit angry out of humiliation. Yuelao, break all the bones in this little bastard's body. He stared at Xiao Yan and smiled cruelly. You're very loyal to your master, but is it useful? A master who can't even protect his own disciple. What's the use of having him? He's nothing but a good-for-nothing. Xiao Yan growled in a low voice. Bullshit. Yuelao continuously increased his strength. The sound of bones breaking was already coming from Xiao Yan's body. It was so painful that he broke out in cold sweat. Yuelao coldly said, I'll give you one more chance. Tell me where your master is, and I'll give you a quick death. In your dreams, Xiao Yan said word by word, using all of his strength. Zhu Yi and Xiao Budian wanted to charge up, but were separately surrounded by the cultivators of the house of the Marquis of Xuanji and the Yu family. They were outnumbered and were about to be captured alive. Tao Er looked at Zhu Yi and slowly said, Young Master Yi, did you see that? Maybe that sorcerer is nearby right now, watching his disciples suffer but not daring to come out and save him. Tell me, what's the use of having that kind of trash as a master? Zhu Yi's face darkened, and he didn't say anything. Yution walked over to Xiao Yan's side and stepped on Xiao Yan's back, smiling, saying, Mr. Tao Er, you've misunderstood. Just look at the black-clothed brat, and you'll know. Trash acknowledging trash as a master. It's a perfect match. Xiao Yan's eyes were blood red. Don't call me trash. Today's feeling of powerlessness once again made him think of those 3 dark years of his. Yution smiled, saying, I called you trash. What can you do? Nothing much. Just leave your life behind. A cold and indifferent voice suddenly sounded out in the air. Yution's smile froze on his face. Everyone's expression slightly changed. Tao Er and old man Yuelao cast their gaze towards the distance. At that place, two figures appeared. One of them was a skinny and small youth, closely following behind the other person. That is a young Taoist wearing a white robe with wide sleeves, a feathered robe, and a star crown. He was staring at them expressionlessly. Zhu Yi and Xiao Buddy called out at the same time, "Master!" Xiao Yin, who was on the ground, had already fallen into a semi-conscious state. After seeing the people that arrived, his eyes emitted a hint of weakness, and he started laughing. Lin Feng looked at the black-clothed youth whose face was covered in blood. After a moment of silence, he nodded and did not say anything. But Xiao Yin understood his meaning. Turning around to face Yution and the others, Lin Feng only had one sentence. "Come forward and accept your death." Chapter 75. Step forward and accept your death. Lin Feng's tone was calm as he spoke indifferently. Not to mention Yution's expression suddenly changed. Tao Er and Yuelao even frowned. They couldn't see through Lin Feng's cultivation, but being pointed at and scolded by Lin Feng like this, they were all enraged. Yuelao snorted coldly. Pretending to be mysterious, "Let this old man measure your worth." Finished speaking, he waved his right hand, and the black divine mountain pressing down on Xiao Yin flew into the air with a whoosh. It transformed into a huge mountain peak, covering the sky and pressing down on Lin Feng. The light in the sky above Lin Feng's head dimmed in an instant. "You're not worthy to fight with me." Lin Feng didn't even look at the mountain peak above his head as he said coldly, "I'll find an opponent of the same level for you." Before he finished speaking, a tall black figure suddenly appeared in front of Lin Feng. Yuelao was stunned. Only then did he see that the black figure looked like a human, but its entire body was covered in heavy armor. In the gaps of the armor, there was a faint red light flashing. A violent and terrifying aura engulfed the entire area. That disaster-like violent mana fluctuation caused Yuelao and Tao Er's expressions to change. Yuelao blurted out, "What is it?" Lin Feng didn't pay attention to him at all. He only said to the armored giant indifferently, "Slaughter this old ghost." The eyes on the giant's helmet were originally pitch black, but at this moment, two spots of red light suddenly lit up, and it let out a loud roar. Roar! A huge roar that seemed to come from ancient times resounded through the entire mountain range, as if a sleeping giant had suddenly awakened at this moment. Within the roar was a heart-palpitating cruelty and tyranny, as if it was filled with an endless desire for destruction and slaughter. The source of the roar represented the world's most terrifying calamity. Destruction, slaughter, annihilation. The world's most violent, most tyrannical vicious beast escaped from its cage and reappeared in the world. Before anyone could react, the armored giant stomped on the ground with both of his feet. The violent force caused the mountain rocks to split apart and soil to fly everywhere. Using the force of the recoil, the armored giant's figure flashed and disappeared from where he stood. The next time he appeared, he was already at the bottom of the Black Divine Mountain. At this time, the Black Divine Mountain had just floated above Lin Feng's head and had yet to descend. Yuelao's heart tightened. He saw the armored giant's fists facing upwards, adopting the stance of Heavenly King, supporting the pagoda, and smashed the bottom of the Black Divine Mountain together. Before his fist even came into contact with the Black Divine Mountain, he could see the air at the bottom of the Divine Mountain distorting, as if space itself was about to be torn apart. The armored giant looked like he was going to collapse the sky with a single punch and shatter the earth. The Black Divine Mountain was nearly 100 meters tall and had a circumference of several hundred meters. Although the armored giant's body was burly, it was only 2 or 3 meters tall. The two of them were completely disproportionate in size. But amidst a loud explosion, the huge Black Divine Mountain was directly sent flying. The incomparably huge mountain was directly sent flying by a single punch. The surrounding onlookers were all dumbfounded. His life-bound artifact was thwarted, and Elder Yuelao even spat out a mouthful of blood. Everyone looked at the armored giant in the sky in horror. War God Demon Puppet. This was the system reward that Lin Feng had received after completing the main mission. As long as enough energy was provided, this fearless war God Demon Puppet would be able to explode with absolutely terrifying combat power. Originally, with Lin Feng's current cultivation, he was completely unable to activate it, but he just happened to have a good material on hand. Sikong Nan's soul, which was controlled by him using the Netherworld Puppet, had previously been sent into the War God Demon Puppet. Although Sikong Nan's cultivation had declined due to his serious injuries, his strength in the past was extremely tyrannical. He didn't even care about Yuanying stage cultivators, so the quality of his soul was extremely high. And now, Lin Feng was using the method of sacrifice to force Sikong Nan to burn his soul to power the War God Demon Puppet. Sikong Nan, who was already under Lin Feng's control, could only obediently sacrifice his soul no matter how hard he struggled. The anger and frustration in his heart intensified the War God Demon Puppet's ferocity and killing intent. After sending the Black God Mountain flying, the War God Demon Puppet landed on the ground from midair, creating a deep pit. Countless rocks rolled down, almost burying it alive. But in the next moment, the side of the pile of rocks exploded, sending countless rocks flying in all directions. From the pile of rocks, a huge black shadow shot up into the sky, heading straight for Elder Yuelao. Elder Yuelao's face was ashen. He summoned the Black God Mountain to block in front of him. The huge mountain had now shrunk to the size of a human fist. His magic power was condensed to the extreme, and his defense was also raised to the extreme. Elder Yuelao spat out a mouthful of blood on the God Mountain. The God Mountain exploded with a shocking light. The black light flowed and condensed into a shield. On the shield was a relief of the giant miracle god, emitting a strong and indestructible aura. The giant miracle god shield, the strongest defense. But it was useless. The War God Demon Puppet smashed the giant miracle god shield with a single punch, sending the Black God Mountain flying again. This time, it directly turned into a small dot and flew into the horizon, disappearing without a trace. Elder Yuelao was dumbstruck. The War God Demon Puppet had already rushed in front of him and sent him flying with a slap. The elder coughed out large mouthfuls of blood and flew horizontally. Half of the bones in his body cracked and broke within his body. It was deformed, and he looked limp. Before it was over, the War God Demon Puppet's figure flashed, and it had already caught up to him. Lin Feng coldly laughed and said, "Did you want to crush all the bones in my disciple's body just now?" The War God Demon Puppet raised its large foot and heavily stomped on Elder Yuelao's body. The elder let out a blood-curdling wah sound, and the half of his body that was still in good condition was now completely shattered. His entire body became a pile of mud as it softly fell onto the ground. The group of Yu family cultivators all had lifeless expressions. They were originally surrounding the little guy, but after seeing this scene, it was unknown who was the first to react. They immediately retreated for fear that they would become the War God Demon Puppet's target. With one person taking the lead, everyone else reacted and uniformly retreated. A large empty space immediately appeared around the little guy's body. Yu Tian's eyeballs were about to fall to the ground. The consecrators of the Golden Elixir period were considered the backbone of the Yu family, yet they were actually trampled to the ground in one move. What made his heart tremble even more was that Lin Feng's gaze had already landed on his body, and he coldly said, "Just now, did you say that my disciple is trash?" Yu Tian's entire body trembled, and he shrunk back, wanting to hide in the crowd. Before, he was afraid that he wasn't outstanding enough, but now he was afraid that Lin Feng would see him. Unfortunately, he was only deceiving himself. The War God Demon Puppet charged into the crowd like lightning, and knocked everyone into a complete mess. It then grabbed towards Ution. Ution angrily shouted, "You're going too far." A crystal bottle flew out from his sleeve, and as it faced the wind, it grew to a height of over 10 meters. The mouth of the bottle was aimed at the war god demon puppet, and it was about to suck the demon puppet inside. At the same time, Ution circulated the magic power of the mysterious underworld art to the extreme, and a thick, icy mist pervaded the air, wanting to freeze the opponent. Unfortunately, it was all useless. The war god demon puppet completely ignored the icy mist and directly smashed the crystal bottle into pieces with one punch. Then, like grabbing a little chick, it pulled Ution out of the icy mist. Ution let out a scream of terror. "What are you doing?" Lin Feng coldly looked at Ution. "Just now you stepped on my disciple with his foot, right?" As he said this, with a thought, the war god demon puppet grabbed Ution's right leg. "No, you dare." Ution didn't finish his words. The war god demon puppet had already forcefully torn one of his legs off his body. Ution let out a miserable howl, and before he could faint, the war god demon puppet's angry roar had already completely torn his entire body apart. In the sky full of blood rain, the war god demon puppet roared at the sky like a god of death, violent, cruel, and insufferably arrogant. Tao Er, who had been silent all this time, suddenly took a step forward. His skinny body was as fast as lightning, and he pounced towards Xiao Yin on the ground. Lin Feng's expression turned cold. "You're courting death." The war god demon puppet let out a roar and threw away Ution, who was like a broken cloth bag. Like lightning, it rushed out and blocked Tao Er's path. What fast speed! Tao Er's expression was calm. He originally wanted to use Xiao Yin as a hostage, but now that he was intercepted by the war god demon puppet, he changed his attack and wanted to catch the war god demon puppet off guard. The old man took a deep breath, and all the skin on his body that was like dry tree bark started to shake violently. Everyone's vision blurred, and they saw Tao Er's skinny body inflate like a balloon. His wrinkled old skin also instantly became smooth and full, and it even flashed with a glossy red glow. In an instant, the old Tao Er seemed to have returned to his youth, and in an instant, he had become a muscular man who was 10 feet tall. The muscles under the surface of his body were like cast iron, full of explosive power. His round face was solemn, and his eyes stared at Lin Feng like the angry eyes of a King Kong. At this moment, Tao Er finally brought out his true strength. Only in this state could he bring out the full power of the dragon and elephant Vajra fist. Tao Er exhaled and shouted, "Heavenly dragon, celestial phenomenon, suppress all demons." Following this loud shout, the magic power around Tao Er's body began to vibrate violently. Then, a 30 feet tall Vajra silhouette condensed above his head. At the same time, a gigantic dragon and an elephant appeared, revolving around the Vajra silhouette. One dragon and one elephant, together, let out a deafening roar. The giant dragon's scales trembled, and it emitted the supreme majesty of the 9 heavens dragon, suppressing millions of lives in the world. The elephant's muscles bulged, and its forehooves stomped madly, almost causing an earthquake. Tao Er's dragon and elephant attack was also his trump card. It was the killing move of the dragon and elephant Vajra fist, dragon and elephant demon subduing. His strength was displayed to the extreme as he ferociously attacked the war god puppet. But it was still useless. The war god demon puppet didn't even look at Tao Er's attack, nor did it block. Both of its fists rushed up, and like the tremors of the earth, the lava of a volcano, the reverse flow of rivers and lakes, and the startled ancient azure dragon, they all exploded together. Just this one burst of strength had directly shattered Tao Er's dragon and elephant shadow. The war god demon puppet's fists turned into palms, and both hands flipped over, smashing down on Tao Er's head. With this flip and pressure, Tao Er suddenly felt as if the world was turning upside down, and the entire sky was collapsing. A destructive force, like the chaos of the universe, enveloped him entirely. The power of heaven and earth turning upside down. This was Tao Air's thought as he faced the war god demon puppet's move. This kind of power had almost worn out his courage. But he was, after all, a cultivator for many years. After swallowing a golden elixir, he broke through the door of no indulgence, and he had a strong will in his heart. In an instant, he regained his composure. With a loud roar, he flipped his hands up, and in a holding position, he forcefully blocked the war god demon puppet's palms. Boom! The moment his arms came into contact with the war god demon puppet's palms, Tao Air immediately felt all the bones in his body creak, as if they were about to explode at any moment. Tao Air's vision turned black, and the blood in his body was so agitated that it felt like it was about to explode. His mind relaxed, and his knees went soft, causing him to kneel on the ground on one knee. One knee landed heavily on the ground, as if a sledgehammer had smashed into the ground. The hard ground around him collapsed, forming a huge pit, as if a meteorite had landed on the ground. The surrounding dust and dirt flew up like a sandstorm. This attack from the war god demon puppet had directly forced a cultivator of the golden elixir period to kneel on the ground. This kneel had completely shattered Tao Air's kneecap. His entire leg was completely crippled. If he hadn't knelt and stood up straight to stop the war god demon puppet's attack, Tao Air's bones would have been crushed into pieces. Even his spine would have been damaged. Tao Air, who had always been calm and composed, finally panicked at this moment. His eyes were bloodshot, and he let out a crazed and desperate roar. The energy in his body revolved to the extreme, and the golden light condensed again, trying to shake off the war god demon puppet. Lin Feng looked at Tao Air coldly, not saying a word. He only gave an order to Sikong Nan's soul, which had been injected into the war god demon puppet's body. Burn it completely, explode it all. The war god demon puppet's eyes flashed with a red light, and he let out a loud roar. His body suddenly straightened, and the armor on his body opened up. Bright red light shot out from the gaps, as if something had exploded in his body. The war god demon puppet stood still, and the ground shook violently, as if there was an earthquake. The originally exhausted palms suddenly exploded with a power that could collapse the heavens and the earth, pressing down on Tao Air. Kacha! 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 Ah! With a crazed scream, the bones all over Tao Air's body twisted. Many of his bones were crushed by the war god demon puppet's second attack. After Old Man Yu, the second steward of the house of the Marquis of Xuanji, the golden elixir period cultivator Tao Air also followed in his footsteps, and all of his bones were shattered by the war god demon puppet. Everyone looked at the scene in front of them with a face full of fear, unable to speak for a long time. Amidst the war god demon puppet's furious roar, Lin Feng's voice was calm and cold, as if it came from hell. Who else? Chapter 76. Who else? Lin Feng asked silently. The cultivators from the Marquis' mansion and the Yu family looked at the war god puppet in fear. They shook their heads and retreated, afraid that they would be the next target. Lin Feng's brows slightly furrowed. With a thought, the war god demon puppet roared towards the sky. It contained an endless amount of mana and formed invisible ripples that spread towards the surroundings, shaking the opponents until they staggered. The sound waves spread far into the sky. The air in the sky shook, revealing Hui Kong's shocked face. Lin Feng laughed coldly. You still want to hide at the side and take advantage of the situation? Those who have designs on my disciple today don't even think about escaping. The war god puppet roared and exerted strength in its legs again, creating a deep pit in the ground. Its body shot toward Hui Kong like a cannonball. Hui Kong's expression changed. He was about to use the Great Peng Wind technique to escape. If he used his escape technique, he would instantly soar into the sky and escape thousands of miles away. the war god puppet wouldn't be able to catch up to him. However, the war god puppet's explosive power was too strong. Its short-distance speed was shocking. In the blink of an eye, it crossed thousands of meters as if it had teleported and arrived in front of Hui Kong. At this time, Hui Kong didn't even have time to use his escape technique. Too fast. The war god puppet's speed was too fast. Hui Kong could have used his escape technique with a thought, but it was still too late. Hui Kong stared and shouted, "Buddha is merciful. If he couldn't dodge, then he wouldn't." With a flash of Buddhist light, the rock spread its wings and let out a deafening cry. It created a strong storm, as if it was going to tear the sky apart. As the rock flapped its wings, countless light blades shot toward the war god puppet. Unfortunately, it was all useless. The war god puppet's armor had already turned red. With its last burst of energy, it forced its way through the rain of light and opened its arms to hug Hui Kong, who was so angry that his eyes were about to pop out of their sockets. Tightly gripped by the war god puppet's iron-like arms, Hui Kong couldn't move. He couldn't even circulate his magic power and was captured alive. Today, of the 3 Golden Elixir period cultivators who wanted to harm Lin Feng and his disciple, 2 were dead and 1 was captured. Lin Feng waved the black cloud flag and stored the war god puppet and Hui Kong away. Withdrawing the black cloud flag, Lin Feng did not say anything. He stood with his hands behind his back and looked at the sky in another direction. A burst of laughter came from the sky. "Fellow Taoist, you've let this old man watch a good show." The clouds parted, and Pu Beizi's figure was revealed. There were a few people behind him who were obviously the leaders of the Xiandao sect. Lin Feng said lightly, "Fellow Taoist, you've watched enough. Now that you've shown yourself, what do you say?" Hengyu Mountain had already become the territory of the Xiandao sect. The battle happening nearby had naturally alerted Pu Beizi. He had rushed here early in the morning and had been observing silently from the side. He was not interested in Tao Er or Yuelao. His attention was always on Lin Feng. Unfortunately, Lin Feng didn't even make a move himself. He only sent out a puppet to sweep through the entire field. Although that puppet is domineering, it can only be fierce in front of Golden Elixir period cultivators. "It's nothing to me," Pu Beizi thought, "but this Taoist is really unfathomable. I have no enmity with him, and I even owe him a small favor. This person is not an enemy." The Xiandao sect cultivators behind him all looked at Lin Feng with fear. 2 of the Golden Elixir period cultivators were worried. "What a domineering puppet. If I were to go against it, I would probably die. If the puppet is like this, wouldn't its master be even stronger? Why haven't I heard of such a person before?" The few Foundation establishment cultivators looked at Lin Feng and the war god puppet with fear in their eyes. Pu Beizi made up his mind not to become enemies with Lin Feng, so he calmed down a lot and smiled calmly. "The main culprit has been killed by fellow cultivator. As for the rest of the small fries, I'll take care of them. They're causing trouble in my Xiandao sect, so I'm responsible." Lin Feng sneered in his heart. His words sounded nice, as if he was helping Lin Feng, but in fact, wasn't he doing it for himself? The Xiandao sect is located at the southern border of the Great Qin dynasty, so they don't fear the house of the Marquis of Xuanji in the first place. If the Marquis of Xuanji dares to come to the Great Qin, naturally there will be a big shot of the Great Qin to come forward. As for the Yu family, it was even less of a problem. Offending the Yu family wasn't a problem for the Xiandao sect. Instead, they might even benefit from it. The southern border was the sphere of influence of the Hua family, one of the 4 great families of the Great Qin dynasty. The Hua family and the Yu family had always been at odds. Their relationship was close to being mortal enemies. If the Xiandao sect handed these Yu family disciples to the Hua family, it would be a great merit. They would be valued by the leader of the region, and it would be beneficial for the Xiandao sect's development. This old monster Pu Beizi was quite shrewd. However, Lin Feng didn't plan on stopping him. Instead, he went with the flow and agreed. With one more person to help him share the attention of the Marquis of Xuanji and the Yu family, why not? Seeing Lin Feng agree, Pu Beizi laughed loudly, ordering the Xiandao sect experts behind him, "Capture them all." Lin Feng arrived beside Xiao Yin and picked up the weak black-clothed youth. Xiao Yin cracked a smile. "Master, I saw it all. Good beating." Lin Feng felt the bones on his body. There were many places that were broken. Xiao Yin was in so much pain that he was shaking. "Xiao Yin, you're good. Very good." Lin Feng took in a deep breath. "Don't worry. Master will definitely heal you. I won't delay your arranged battle with Murong Yinran." Xiao Yin grimaced in pain. "Master, you have to keep your word. Otherwise, when the time comes, disciple won't only lose my face, but also yours." Zhu Yi and Xiao Budian also walked over at this time. Both of their expressions were heavy. Xiao Budian's eyes even reddened. Eldest senior brother. The enemies that came today, strictly speaking, came for him and Zhu Yi. It has nothing to do with Xiao Yin, but in the end it was Xiao Yin who suffered a great disaster. Xiao Yin cracked a smile. "You guys call me eldest senior brother, so I'll do my best to protect you guys. Just like Master said before, in normal families, even older brothers have to protect their younger siblings, let alone us." Xiao Yan's gaze turned behind Lin Feng. Looking at Wang Lin, who didn't know what to do, he smiled and said, "Oh, your master's new disciple." Witnessing everything that happened earlier, Wang Lin's emotions were surging and hadn't completely calmed down. Lin Feng didn't do anything himself and only sent a puppet to beat the 3 golden elixir cultivators to the point of throwing away their helmets and armors. The demon-like Pu Beizi, who moved a mountain and almost destroyed the Hung Yu sect by himself, was no longer as domineering and arrogant in front of Lin Feng. Seeing Lin Feng start a massacre for his disciple, and seeing Xiao Yin get seriously injured for the sake of his 2 junior brothers, Wang Lin suddenly felt a surge of warmth in his heart. He respectfully bowed to Xiao Yin. This bow was more sincere than any bow he had ever given in the Hung Yu sect. Wang Lin greets senior brother. The 4 junior brothers bowed to each other, while Lin Feng thought to himself, "Xiao Yan's injuries are too serious. If he doesn't take good care of it, his body will be crippled." He suddenly remembered that half a year ago in the Black Cloud Underground Palace, he killed the monk Hui Ku and obtained the pill recipe for the Sonic Thunder Great Return Pill. The Sonic Thunder Great Return Pill was the famous healing medicine of the Great Thunderclap Monastery. It had a miraculous effect in treating injuries to the body, bringing the dead back to life, and regrowing flesh and bones. Lin Feng sighed and thought, "I need to properly learn alchemy." The black cloud flag spread out and swept up the 4 disciples, flying through the air. Pu Beizi looked at Lin Feng's departing figure and smacked his lips. If only I had a disciple like him. The other Xian Dao sect cultivators were thinking the same thing. If only I had a master like him. Chapter 77. Driving the black cloud flag to fly in the air, Lin Feng pondered about the thunderous, great, rejuvenating pill while nervously entering the system. It seemed like this damned system had issued a new mission. After gathering 4 disciples, Lin Feng completed the first main mission. The new mission issued this time should not be a side mission, but a new main mission. Main Mission 1. 1. Create the sect's foundation, Dao, technique mission description. It's good for a sect to be all-inclusive and integrate the Dao arts and divine abilities of other inheritances, but it must be able to carry on the past and open up a new path. It must be able to improve upon its current foundation and possess its own Dao arts and divine abilities. Only then would it be able to lead the masses and establish its position as the #1 sect in the world. Mission time limit: 1 year. If the mission is not completed within the time limit, the host will be killed. Looking at the mission description, Lin Feng nodded repeatedly and felt the same way. He was going to establish his own sect, so of course he must have his own unique Dao technique foundation. If he kept using other people's Dao techniques and divine powers, he would be recognized and embarrassed. No matter how powerful other people's Dao techniques and divine powers were, it was still someone else's inheritance. How could it be the foundation of his own sect? If he wanted to establish his own sect, he must be original, and his own self-created Dao techniques and divine powers had to surpass all existing ones in the world. Only then could it be considered the inheritance of the number one sect. However, looking at the mission time limit, Lin Feng's face instantly darkened. It was only 1 year, but how could it be so easy to create one's own Tao techniques and divine powers? Lin Feng smiled bitterly and sighed. His dream of cultivating in seclusion for 100 years and then coming out to kill everyone was shattered. At least let me build my foundation first. Lin Feng was already at Qi refinement great perfection. The next step was to open up his Qi Si and build his Tao foundation. Going from Qi refinement to foundation building was a qualitative leap, and it could greatly increase Lin Feng's strength. Although he had just swept away 3 golden elixir period cultivators, Lin Feng knew that it was the power of the war god-demon puppet and not his own. The war god puppet's battle prowess was directly proportional to the strength of its energy source. It would be very difficult to have the same kind of power as Sikong Nan's sacrifice today in a short period of time. A giant old devil like Sikong Nan just happened to be in trouble and then fell into his hands. This was a good thing that could only be encountered by chance. Right now, Lin Feng didn't even have enough resources to move the war god golem again, let alone the strength it had today. The only way was to provide the Saraira to the war god puppet as a power source. However, the 24 Heaven Arhat formation was Lin Feng's strongest weapon apart from the war god puppet. Without a relic, he would not be able to set up the formation. Unless it was absolutely necessary, Lin Feng did not want to take that step. Therefore, Lin Feng wanted to advance to the foundation establishment stage first. After reaching the foundation establishment stage, Lin Feng would be able to refine Sarairas again. At that time, he could reduce the number of Sarairas needed to set up the formation and change the 24 Heaven Arhat formation to 18 Arhats, 16 Arhats, and so on. Although the power of the Arhat formation would be reduced, it would still provide enough energy for the war god puppet. It was clearly a good deal. However, just as Lin Feng had this thought, a notification popped up from the system. After seeing it clearly, Lin Feng almost fainted. Establishing the Tao Foundation is the first step to achieving longevity. It is also the most important foundation. The host must use the sect's self-created Tao Foundation to establish the foundation. Lin Feng's chest tightened. At this time, other than vulgarities, there was nothing else he wanted to say. He should have known that there was no such thing as the most deceitful system, only more deceitful. Foundation Tao Foundation Creation System activated. Do you want to enter now? Lin Feng groaned and clicked to enter. The system's notification continued to ring in his ears. The host will meditate on an image. The system will automatically create a Tao Foundation based on the image. It's that simple. Lin Feng calmed down and pondered. It sounded simple. He only needed to think of an image in his mind. But what should he use? Should he play a prank or be serious? After thinking about it carefully, Lin Feng resisted the urge to play a prank. A tall building starts from a flat ground. If he was greedy for a moment of pleasure and caused his foundation to become unstable, it would affect the completion of the later missions. Presumably, this stupid system would not mind giving him a quick death. Tao Foundation. Tao Foundation. Lin Feng thought for a while, and an image of black and white blended together appeared in his mind. Tai Chi This world did not seem to have a Tai Chi diagram. The symbol of the Taoist Holy Land, Taishu Temple, was only a white, auspicious cloud. The host's thoughts are confirmed. Beginning creation, hearing the emotionless mechanical voice in his ears, Lin Feng sighed. The heavens had pity on him. He actually wanted to try a transformer or a pickup truck. Heavenly virtue scripture successfully created. An empty scene appeared in Lin Feng's mind, and a Tai Chi diagram of yin and yang appeared in the void. The Tai Chi diagram spun and turned into black and white, filling the entire void. Next, from the black and white poles, the 4 images of earth, water, fire, and wind were born. The chaotic earth, water, fire, and wind in the void stabilized and further evolved into the 8 images of heaven: earth, wind, thunder, water, fire, mountain, and lake. Looking at this scene, Lin Feng understood. This is Tai Chi giving birth to yin and yang giving birth to the four images, and the four images giving birth to the 8 trigrams. The 8 images were divided into 8 directions and condensed in the void, turning into 8 black, hole-like things and no longer changing. The system's notification sounded again. Host, please choose the basic reference Tao technique and create the first chapter of the Heavenly Virtue Scripture, the 8 trigrams chapter. Lin Feng's heart stirred slightly. He looked at the 8 images that represented the 8 trigrams carefully and connected with the system's notification. A guess appeared in his mind. Does this want me to get 8 types of Tao techniques that already exist in this world and then fuse them together to obtain a brand new Tao technique as my self-created Tao technique? Thinking of this, Lin Feng decided to test it out. The 8 images that represent the 8 trigrams shouldn't be just for show. There must be some kind of requirement, or perhaps it's the original attribute of the Tao technique. Lin Feng silently thought about the 9 heavens thunder technique, and then he saw the black hole that represented thunder in the 8 trigrams suddenly light up, turning into a ball of white light. Then Lin Feng silently thought about the Yellow Springs Nirvana art. Sure enough, the black hole that represented water also turned into a ball of white light. In order to continue testing his guess, Lin Feng also silently thought about his other water Tao technique, the vast ocean river art. This time, the remaining 6 black holes had no reaction. Looks like it's like this. Lin Feng let out a long breath. Next was the art of Akala and Ksitigarbha Sutra. Sure enough, the black holes that represented fire and earth also lit up with white light. Looking at the remaining 4 black holes, Lin Feng frowned slightly. Heaven, wind, Mount Lake? Heaven, wind, Mount Lake? Wait a minute. Lin Feng's heart suddenly moved. A small black mountain the size of a fist trembled as it landed on his palm. This was Old Man Yu's life-bound magic artifact from before. After being sent flying by the war god puppet, Lin Feng had secretly used the black cloud flag to sweep it over. This small black mountain that could change in size had been repeatedly damaged by the war god puppet and had already lost most of its spirituality. It had to be repaired and refined again. What Lin Feng cared about was not the magic artifact itself, but the words that were faintly engraved on the small mountain. The Book of Taiwei, haha, so it's like this. The heavens are really helping me. Lin Feng laughed happily. Perhaps to increase its power, Old Man Yu's magic artifact actually had a portion of his sex Tao technique, the Book of Taiwei, inscribed on it. Thinking about the Tao technique of the Book of Taiwei, the black hole that represented mountain also lit up with white light. The completion of his self-created Tao technique was already more than half done. Lin Feng's spirits instantly rose. There's still heaven, wind, and lake left. I've already saved up quite a bit of exchange points. Taking Wang Lin as my disciple also rewarded me with a lottery ticket. Thinking up to here, Lin Feng immediately entered the exchange system. Chapter 78. Lin Feng first entered the exchange system. He had a clear goal this time, which was to try to find 3 suitable Tao techniques. Naturally, he had to leave the lucky draw system to the back and first find what he wanted in the exchange system. The 500 exchange points reward from the Black Cloud Underground Palace side quest and the 500 points reward from taking in Zhu Yi as a disciple. Lin Feng had no use for them. Now, with the 500 points reward from taking in Wang Lin as a disciple, Lin Feng had accumulated a total of 1,500 points. Compared to the measly 300 points provided by the novice gift when he first opened the system, Lin Feng could now be considered to be carrying a huge sum of money. However, Tao techniques were all valuable items, so he still had to be careful when exchanging them. Stellar Net Arts, secret Tao technique of the path of the stars. Comprehend the principles of the circulation of the stars in the sky. This should be able to meet the criteria of heaven, right? Lin Feng glanced at the price. 800 points? Lin Feng frowned slightly and carefully searched for a moment in the exchange system, but the only Tao technique that had anything to do with heaven was the stellar net arts. Let's look at the others first. Lin Feng changed his target and continued to search. Heavenly Wind Scripture, secret Tao technique of Heavenly Wind Monastery. Comprehend the mysteries of the circulation of wind and clouds. Cultivate the divine ability of heavenly wind and fierce wind. Turbid Wave Arts, secret Tao technique of Turbid Wave Sect. Simultaneously control the spiritual energy of water and earth. Water and earth in harmony, silt and mud. Reliable. Although it was reliable, the price made Lin Feng somewhat worried. These two Tao techniques were the same price as the stellar net arts. Both required 800 points. Adding the three together, it was a total of 2,400 points. Lin Feng smiled bitterly. Just now he felt that he was considered a rich man, but now it seemed that he was still a poor man. I'll buy one first, then see if I can get lucky in the lottery. If it really doesn't work, I'll think of a way to get a side quest and earn another sum of points. Lin Feng pondered. At least the system still gave him a year's time. The main mission this time was a one-time deal. As long as he gathered 8 suitable Tao arts, he would be able to fuse them into his own original Tao art of the sect. It was unlike the previous main mission, where he had to find the 4 disciples one by one. Thinking of the reward of the main quest, Lin Feng's heart was filled with excitement. Although the power source was not easy to find, the power of the war god puppet had left a deep impression on Lin Feng. If he completed the main quest this time, the reward would not be too shabby, right? Lin Feng first paid 800 exchange points for the stellar Luo technique. Comprehending the Starnet mystic art, a magnificent scene appeared in Lin Feng's mind. Just like the clear night sky, the vast starry sky could be seen at a glance. The stars in the sky rotated endlessly. Tens of thousands of stars moved and rotated in front of Lin Feng's eyes, displaying the most magnificent and profound scenes of the world. In a trance, Lin Feng only felt that he was in a void. There was no end to the space, and there was no end to time. Silently, he was alone, drifting and drifting with the stars beside him. Every single ray of starlight seemed to contain a supreme law of heaven and earth. But when Lin Feng really wanted to explore the mysteries within, he brushed past it, unable to see the truth clearly. The concept of this Tao art is excellent. Tens of thousands of stars, each containing a powerful and profound concept. But the person who created this Tao art was ultimately not at a high enough level. He could only dabble in it, and in the end, he did not fully understand it. Lin Feng shook his head regretfully, but he did not take it to heart, because the black hole that represented heaven in the 8 trigrams had already lit up with a white light. Previously, Lin Feng had only guessed that this Tao art for comprehending the mysteries of the starry sky might meet the requirements. But if he had guessed wrong, the 800 yuan would have gone down the drain. But now that it was confirmed that the stellar Luo technique met the system's requirements, Lin Feng was relieved. Out of the 8 Tao arts, he had already gathered 6. He needed 2 more, and he would be able to fuse them. After exiting from the exchange system, Lin Feng entered the lottery system and prayed in his heart. It would be best if I could directly draw one. That would make things much easier. He first looked at the roulette system, and the 3 Tao arts he got didn't meet the requirements. Entering the die system, Lin Feng checked the items he got, and the first thing he saw was a thunderous great rejuvenating pill. Good heavens! Lin Feng took a deep breath and looked down. He saw the Heavenly Wind Tao art silently placed in the number 12 grid. Lin Feng was a little conflicted. He couldn't have his cake and eat it too. This kind of choice was always a pain in the ass. But very soon, Lin Feng discovered something even more painful. The number of the thunderous great rejuvenating pill was 1, which meant that he had to roll 1 to get the pill. But the problem was, how could he roll 1 out of 3? It had to be at least 3. In the past, he had never encountered a situation where what he wanted was 1 and 2, so Lin Feng didn't pay much attention to it. Only now did he realize that this die lottery system actually couldn't draw 1 and 2. In addition to the 2 empty grids, there were actually 4 grids that the die system couldn't get. Lin Feng didn't know whether to laugh or cry. "You sly system, you even want to take advantage of me in such a small place?" But this time, Lin Feng could still accept it. The system had basically made the decision for him, and he just had to focus on the heavenly wind Dao art on the 12th. 12, 12, 12, go! Under Lin Feng's control, the system threw the die, and the 3 dice spun quickly on the disc. The first die stopped very quickly. Lin Feng looked at it, and his heart sank. 1. Lin Feng's heart tightened. The remaining 2 dice had to be 6 and 5 before he could get the heavenly wind Dao art. Very soon, the second die landed. 6. Well done. Lin Feng clapped his hands and stared at the last die. He muttered 5, 5, 5. The die landed. It was still 6. The first was 1, the second was 6, and the third was also 6. Lin Feng was silent for a moment and suddenly exploded. "I bought a watch last year. You system, you're only 13. Your whole family is 13. F***CK. Lin Feng exited the system with a gloomy face. He couldn't even be bothered to look at what was on the 13th grid. At this moment, the system notification suddenly rang in his ears. Host has triggered a random side mission, Wind and Thunder Talisman. Lin Feng was stunned. When he regained his senses, he first looked at what he had drawn. It was a palm-sized stone talisman, and its surface was engraved with sparse lines. It was simple and elegant. The flowing wind talisman was the treasure of the Wind and Thunder sect in the past. It was a pair with the other Thunder talisman. When the 2 talismans were combined, the Wind and Thunder Transformation Talisman Array could be set up. The Wind and Thunder Transformation Talisman Array surged with wind and thunder, helping each other. When a cultivator cultivated in the Wind and Thunder Transformation Talisman Array, they could enjoy the endless nourishment of wind and thunder spiritual energy. Their cultivation speed was much faster than ordinary people. Lin Feng was stunned for a moment, and then he looked at the side mission. Random side mission, Wind and Thunder Talisman. Mission background. The Wind and Thunder Talisman was the treasure of the Wind and Thunder sect. It didn't have much power, but when the 2 talismans were combined, it was not the Wind and Thunder Transformation Talisman Array. Thus, other forces coveted it and came to snatch it. In the end, the Wind and Thunder sect was destroyed, and the 2 talismans went missing. Mission objective. Host went to the Wind and Thunder Sea of the Great Broken Mountain Range where the Thunder Talisman Array was located, and found the Thunder Talisman Array through the connection between the flowing Wind Talisman Array and the Thunder Talisman Array. Mission time limit, 3 months. If the mission is not completed within the time limit, the mission will be invalid. It's a blessing in disguise. Lin Feng sighed, and his face was full of smiles. Although this Wind and Thunder Talisman Array didn't have much combat power, it was like a cheat when used to assist in cultivation. With this item as compensation, the gloominess of not drawing the Heavenly Wind Dao law was swept away. Furthermore, he had also triggered a side mission. After completing this side mission, he would receive the reward, and he would be able to directly exchange for Dao techniques from the exchange system. Lin Feng put away the flowing Wind Talisman Array and thought to himself, "I'll first think of a way to get a thunderous great rejuvenating pill to treat Xiao Yan's injuries. Then I'll head to the Wind and Thunder Sea of the Great Hengduan Mountain Range to look for the Thunder Talisman Array." Thinking to this point, Lin Feng prepared to go and see monk Hui Kong, who was captured by the war god demon puppet. Maybe this monk from the Great Thunderclap Monastery had a ready-made thunderous great rejuvenating pill. Chapter 79. As a golden elixir period magic item. Even though the Black Cloud flag was tainted by the Blood River True Water and couldn't display its true power in battle, its ability to fly and move through space was still extremely handy for Lin Feng. As a spatial-type magic item, other than being able to travel through space for short distances, the Black Cloud flag could also open up an independent space. 2 balls of black light flashed into space. One of them wrapped around Xiao Yan and his fellow disciples. Lin Feng went to see them. Xiao Yan's injuries were still considered stable. The other ball of black light wrapped around the war god puppet. It had already calmed down, the red light in its eyes completely extinguished. Its terrifying aura also disappeared. It was like a statue. The war god puppet's arms were still tightly wrapped around Huikong. Even though the war god puppet had already lost its vitality, Huikong's Fa Li was also sealed, unable to move. Huikong saw Lin Feng and his lips moved, wanting to say something, but in the end he closed his mouth and didn't say anything. Lin Feng looked like he didn't care on the surface, but he was actually secretly observing Huikong. "You also came for my disciple?" Lin Feng asked indifferently. "I heard my disciple say that you recognized Hui Ku's Thundershock staff and are looking for Hui Ku." Huikong raised his head and chanted the name of Buddha in a low voice. Amitba. This poor monk indeed came for that disobedient junior brother Hui Ku. To be more precise, this poor monk wants to recover the Buddhist bone relics of the sect elders that were desecrated by Hui Ku's hands. Hui Ku is treacherous, actually daring to refine the relics of our elders into magic items. This poor monk definitely cannot sit by and do nothing. Even though he fell into Lin Feng's hands, Huikong's expression was still calm. It wasn't that he wasn't afraid, but rather that he had faith in his heart, and his will was sufficiently firm. Lin Feng asked, "What is your Dharma name?" Huikong answered, "This poor monk's Dharma name is Huikong." Lin Feng looked at him and suddenly asked, "If I tell you Hui Ku's whereabouts, what will you do after you find him?" Huikong's drooping eyelids suddenly opened, and the divine light in his eyes rose explosively. "Cripple his cultivation and imprison him to chant scriptures before the Buddha for the rest of his life to atone for his sins." Lin Feng looked into his eyes and knew that the monk was serious. "Little monk, unfortunately, you won't be able to do it," Lin Feng said calmly. Huikong's expression didn't change. "What senior means is that you want to kill me, so I can't find Junior Hui Ku to retrieve the Sarira? Or could it be that Junior Brother Hui Ku has already died in your hands, so I'm unable to detain him to chant sutras in front of the Buddha to atone for his sins?" Lin Feng glanced at him. "You think you're smart." Huikong replied, "Senior, please guide me." Lin Feng waved his sleeve. "Hui Ku is indeed dead, but he didn't die by my hands. He perished together with the cultivators under Zhu Hongwu." Huikong's gaze slightly focused, and his expression became serious. "The Marquis of Xuanji, Zhu Hongwu, in the past, the great Zhou dynasty united many powers to exterminate Buddhism, and the Marquis of Xuanji was the commander. Huikong was also a disciple of the Great Thunder Temple. Even though he wasn't as extreme as Hui Ku, he similarly hated the Marquis of Xuanji." Lin Feng smiled coldly. "If people don't offend me, I won't offend them." The second steward under Zhu Hongwu, the Yu family's guest, were all slapped to pieces by me. If a direct descendant of the Yu family dares to step on my disciple, I'll take one of his legs. Why do you think I left you alive and didn't kill you, only capturing you alive?" Huikong lowered his head and said, "I didn't really offend your master and disciple. I just wanted to find out the whereabouts of the Sarira." Lin Feng said in his heart, "Of course it's because the war god puppet has no more power." But he naturally wouldn't say this to Huikong. Hearing Huikong's reply, Lin Feng slightly nodded his head. "This is only one of the reasons. The other reason is because of your junior brother, Hui Ku." Huikong looked towards Lin Feng with a bit of shock. Lin Feng calmly said, "Before Hui Ku passed away, I was right in front of him. This Thundershock staff was given to me by him before he died." Lin Feng slowly said, "But those 24 Sarara were destroyed in the Nether Blood River under the Black Cloud Underground Palace." Huikong's expression changed greatly. "Nether Blood River. Is what Senior said true?" Lin Feng said indifferently, "I only say what I say once." Huikong was extremely confused. If the Sarira was really transferred into the Nether Blood River, it would definitely be completely contaminated by the tainted blood and lose all of its Buddhist nature. He composed himself and said in a low voice, "It was this poor monk's impoliteness. Please tell me the details." Lin Feng suddenly changed his tone and asked, "Because of the Sarira, You're very dissatisfied with your junior brother, Hui Ku? Hui Kong was slightly startled, but still answered very calmly. This poor monk did indeed violate the precept of anger because of this matter, but this is how my heart is, and I don't dare to quibble or cover it up. Lin Feng nodded his head and continued to say, Do you know what Hui Ku said the most before he died? He stared into Hui Kong's eyes and slowly said, Hui Ku said that he knew that he deceived his master and destroyed his ancestors and would definitely go to hell. He only hated that he couldn't see the day when the great Zhou dynasty was destroyed and his master's blood feud was avenged. Hui Kong instantly became silent. In essence, Hui Ku was the same as him. Hui Ku violated the precept of anger and killing because of the hatred of his master being destroyed, and even more so didn't hesitate to refine the Saraira of his master's elders as a magic artifact in order to increase his strength and take revenge on the great Zhou dynasty. He himself also knew that this was an act of deceiving his master and destroying his ancestors, but he just couldn't restrain the anger and hatred in his heart. This was also Hui Ku's heart. It couldn't be quibbled or covered up, and there was no need to quibble or cover up. Lin Feng said with a bit of regret, Even though your junior brother Hui Ku's personality is extreme, he will definitely take revenge if he has a grudge, and it's not even a personal grudge, it's the blood feud of his master. Going straight, taking revenge if there's a grudge, I admire people like him. Hui Ku knows that you've always been tracking him. He doesn't ask for your forgiveness. He only asks that after he gets his revenge, he'll let you deal with him and the Saraira will be worshipped again. Lin Feng said faintly. Hui Ku had an epiphany before he died. His anger and hatred dissipated. His biggest regret isn't that he died before he got his revenge, but that the Saraira was lost in the Netherblood River, unable to be returned to your hands. Hui Kong's face gradually paled, a look of pain appearing in his eyes. Lin Feng had always been paying attention to every change in his expression. Seeing this scene, he felt even more confident in his heart and hurriedly continued to strike while the iron was hot. Hui Ku has always hoped to obtain your forgiveness. He gave me that thundershock staff because he hoped that I would return it to you and help him pass on a message, saying that he's destined to enter the infernal hell to atone for his crimes. But everything he does is for the great Thunder Temple. If he has any bit of selfishness, the heavens will destroy him. I passed on the Thundershock staff to my disciple before. It was only for him to temporarily use for self-defense. Lin Feng lightly said, Since I met you today, I might as well give it to you. Finishing speaking, Lin Feng handed the Thundershock staff to Hui Kong, but Hui Kong didn't take it. His face was deathly pale, only muttering to himself, Junior brother, you've gone the wrong way. You've really gone the wrong way. You are muddle-headed, AI. At this point, Lin Feng was already completely clear that this Hui Kong and Hui Ku, when they studied together in the Great Thunder Temple back then, their relationship was definitely extremely close. It's very likely that they were taught by the same master, fellow disciples who ate and lived together. After the Great Thunder Temple was destroyed, the two escaped together. The irritable and extreme Hui Ku refined an Elder Saraira as a magic item to increase his strength, and the serious and upright Hui Kong broke off relations with him because of this. It's because of their deep feelings in the past that Hui Kong couldn't tolerate Hui Ku doing this kind of profane thing to his elder's remains. That's why he was so persistent in wanting to capture Hui Ku and take back the Saraira. Understanding the relationship between the two, Lin Feng decisively added the final blow. So, half of the credit for you being able to escape from my hands today belongs to that junior brother you've always been chasing. Where you go in the future, you're on your own. Hui Kong looked up at the sky and let out a long sigh, tears falling like rain, but he remained silent. Lin Feng's expression was calm, looking at him without saying anything. After a long time, Hui Kong's emotions finally calmed down. He took a deep breath, looked at Lin Feng, and said, Thank you, Senior, for telling this humble monk so many things and unraveling the knot in this humble monk's heart for over 10 years. This Thundershock staff was given to Senior by junior brother Hui Ku. Since Senior has already passed it on to your brilliant disciple, this humble monk naturally won't ask for it back. I believe that even junior brother Hui Ku will agree with this humble monk's decision. Lin Feng asked silently, "If I let you go, what will you do?" Hui Kong said, "This humble monk wishes to go to the capital of the great Zhou dynasty and make a trip to that underground palace to pay respects to junior brother Hui Ku, then try to go deeper into the underground palace to see if I can luckily find a few Saraira. Even though the hope is slim, this humble monk will still give it his all." Lin Feng could tell that this monk was a man of his word. Therefore, he loosened the restraints of the war god puppet and let Hui Kong out. Hui Kong put his hands together and bowed. "Before I offended your master and disciple, I am indebted to Senior's magnanimity. This humble monk cannot thank Senior enough. If fate wills it, we will meet again in the future. If there's anything that this humble monk can do, Senior, please let me know." Lin Feng nodded his head indifferently. Hui Kong chanted the name of Buddha again, activating the great Peng Wind riding technique and instantly disappearing into the distance. Looking at Hui Kong's disappearing figure, Lin Feng let out a long breath. Because of his relationship with Zhu Yi, he can't avoid going against the house of the Marquis of Xuanji and the great Zhou dynasty in the future. Burying a few more nails for them will only have benefits and no disadvantages. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. If I can make use of it, why not? Also, Lin Feng smiled and took out a storage bag from his chest. This is Hui Kong's storage bag. The storage bag of a golden elixir period cultivator. There should be something in it. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.